Well, we're running a few minutes late. As everybody settle down, we can call the meeting to order. First thing is a pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. Okay, approval of the minutes. For approval of the agenda. Any additions, corrections of that? Anybody got anything to put in down under new business or unfinished?
I think so. Motion approved.
Come in a second. Favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion, approve the minutes from the last regular council meeting, which was on October 11th. Additions, corrections to those at all? Somebody make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Someone a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I oppose, motion carried. Greg Burkhardt is here with a semi-annual audit.
Those first.
Gosh darn it, I missed them. Approval of the bills. I didn't have any in my packet here, so I'd like to have a second to look. And in our personnel meeting, I think us as a council, we've been maybe failing a little bit. We never get the actual bills. We just get an amount. I think we should make sure that them are available. So sometime during the meeting, we can all take a little sneak peek of what they are. You know, because yeah, we wrote out money to life support and innovations, you know.
That's a good idea. We used to do that.
I know.
Do that. Yep. It was
I used to
always there.
try and do it,
So,
come in a little bit early or,
Yeah.
try and make a point of it.
Well, even like these bills from Yanko, they're invoices, but they're not like load sheets. So how do you even approve them with knowing where they're all coming from? Right?
well, yeah, I see they have my address on them
Yeah. there's
for
50
4 yards. I never got 4 yards the whole time down there. There's multiple ones for 4 yards. I never got 4-yard deliveries.
But I was thinking, why would they do 4 yards in the first place? That's a really small.
Well,
The walls they did were 3 and 4 yards.
Oh,
that and them radiuses would have been,
I
a
suppose.
few yards. Some of them walls, maybe an approach or two. Did the approaches get poured? Yours and like Kristen's, did they get poured? Would they have been a 4-yard pour? I don't know.
They would have been, I went through them pretty good today, actually, and I mathed out even with some waste, about 160 yards that was poured on our whole project. And they've got us billed out for almost 200. So I'm like, where's that other 40 yards? I can't find it.
Really?
Yeah. But without load sheets and addresses to where they went, I don't know where they went.
And where did they, who took them tickets? But then there was a time when they brought mine down there, somebody had COVID in the office. They weren't even issuing tickets.
Right.
So there was a couple, 2 or 3 days went by and didn't get no tickets.
And normally the Mason would get those tickets and then, just put where they're at.
Yeah.
Because they jumped around so much, you can't really track by the dates where they were at.
Yep.
We had pictures when they were pouring our stuff, so we kind of cross-referenced the loads and tried to figure out there, and even those were a little high, like the load count was higher than what was actually poured by measurement.
How do you figure curb and gutter?
That's the curb and gutter is the hardest thing to figure out.
Yeah.
Because it's 28 inches wide and it's about a foot deep, and then the curb is about a foot per
Yeah.
18 inches. So that's the hardest thing. The rest of it's pretty easy to figure out.
Well, I know there was never no waste. I mean, he was pretty spot on with on mine anyway. So, yeah, tried to get a hold of Mariano to get a some input on these bills, you know? Because, yeah, I don't like them saying 535 Main. And so some of them, and again, maybe Greg can answer this, do we pay sales tax on cement?
Yes and no. So the state just passed a new bill this year in this legislature where you're not going to pay sales tax on contracts where there is a service and a product delivered. If you're being billed just for the product, you should be able to get exempt or get an exemption from sales tax.
This, I guess, is Blue Earth County, 7.35.
Yeah, so you should be exempt. Now, if you build a joint, so if you get two separate quotes, one service, one product, then you can get that exemption. If it's a joint contract where they do, okay, they come in and they're gonna reline the pipes, they're gonna tear up the street, they give you just a fixed cost project or a contract, you're gonna have to pay sales tax on those purchases.
Yeah.
Because you are the actual purchaser of the concrete, of the asphalt that's getting put down, and those sorts of things. That was fixed with this latest legislature.
Well, that's one thing I see here. Some of them have Blue Earth County sales tax and some don't have Blue Earth County sales tax. And the city shop had Blue Earth County sales tax and the sidewalk down there. And I mean, that sidewalk on the west side of the gas station was $98 on that one. The city shop, you know, that added up to be up 300 or $400 worth, is Blue Earth County. So I just wondering, where do we fall here? Yes or no? I mean, but we'd have to have that already in place before the projects. Because,
If you buy it, if the city of Good Thunder purchases it, you are exempt from sales tax. If you hire somebody to go out there and buy it for you
Yeah.
and install it, that contractor
Yeah.
will pay sales tax. They can't dovetail on the city's exemption.
but this ain't sale, this is Blue Earth County. Is that different than state
Yes.
sales tax?
It's transit tax, what they call it. So you've got the state general tax,
Yeah.
you've got the county transit tax, and then any local option tax. So city of Mankato has a 0.5%, Blue Earth County has a 0.5%, and then you have the general rate.
So can we do not have to pay that
Well, it
7.3?
depends. Did you buy the concrete?
We bought it from Yonko. There was no middleman, right?
No, you should be exempt and under those conditions.
Because just say Mariano bought the cement and charged us, then we're liable
You
for
would
it.
be, yes.
Yep. But since it says the city of Good Thunder up here,
Yep. So if you went right to Sandstone and had them bring a ready mix truck over there and city staff laid it and did the driveway, you would pay sales tax on that.
okay. See, did we have some of these previous month? We must have
Oh,
had.
yeah, we got them every month.
So I mean, did we see if there was sales tax on any of them? Or Blue Earth County tax?
No,
There's one on 1011.
Yeah, see that's the one I got here. Then there was one on,
past bills from August and September. And August, September, October, those bills, there's no sales tax on them.
no county's tax or nothing,
No, nothing.
really?
So that one must have just snuck through.
So anyway, we're gonna have to get Mariano over here and get all this worked out. I mean, he's still got the bill here for the city shop. And that was done way back in July. So he hasn't got any payment, nothing, and yeah, he has to provide some insurance, liability insurance certificate for us, so.
He needs to provide his W-9, his work comp insurance, all that stuff. He hasn't submitted any paperwork to us before we can pay him.
Yeah. But if them guys are all 1099, he won't have work comp. Right, Greg? If he subcontracts them and they call them 1099, it happens in the trucking all the time.
Yeah, I would think so.
And they avoid it that way. That's how they do it.
There's 9 criteria though, that if they're employees of his,
But they're subcontractors. Do you provide work comp on people you subcontract with?
I'm not their only employer. So like if someone does work for me exclusively, they're an employee, even though they may appear to be a subcontractor, they're an employee. That's what the state finds. They have to meet all the criteria. They have to have their own tools, have to be able to realize a profit, realize a loss, come and go as they please. There's all these criteria that if they meet all those, they're not an employee, they're a 1099 contractor.
So, well,
So for him every day, they're employees.
well, they do come with all their own tools and their own vehicles. So,
I'm not making a decision. I'm just telling you what the state's rules are.
and then if we ask him, which is only good housekeeping, do we ask for Tom Walters' certificate of insurance each year? And do we ask for Boning's certificate of insurance each year? Do we have one new one on the file? Because everybody I haul for, my insurance company automatically ships them out every year. Otherwise I can't haul for them. So do we have them all on file?
I can check. I couldn't tell you that answer right now.
Well, we'd have to, that'd be a yearly thing. Anybody we subcontract with would have to have that insurance. If Brett come in and did some work for us, and then if you planned on it each year, it'd have to be automatically renewed each year.
We just have to have a vendor packet that includes all the information and then request the update or just have an auto renewal.
But I think when you come to that 1099, that's how a lot of these people operate. A lot of them. Contractors, they all work together and they take that risk at working knowingly they don't have insurance to back themselves up.
The state's got rules though, where we have to hold a percentage if they want to try to play that game and they're actually employees. We might have to hold a percentage of that to go to the state pool. Well, might need to seek clarification.
All right. The guy that poured your chunk, is his insurance on file then?
It's probably not on file. I have his insurance on file.
Yeah, but I mean, the city needs that too then, right?
We can get it for him.
Yeah, because, if we ask one, we gotta have it from everybody that we do business with. It's just that simple. All righty. Anybody else got any questions on the bills? We're gonna have to work into that, and that's probably gonna take a little bit of research to figure this one out. If not, somebody want to make a motion to approve? I just want to spec repair there. Jake showed me the sander. That seems a little high, but the sander was all rotted off. The wrong disc, in the mounting bracket, it was all rotted off because it didn't get cleaned up properly. So it's all rotted off. That seems a little high. I don't know what we can do after the fact. So.
We're just getting ready for winter.
That's right. Didn't wait until December to snowstorm to get it fixed, so that, All right, somebody want to make a motion to approve the bills?
What do you want to do? You want to pay them all except the uncles? Or how do you want to do?
Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait until we decipher what the heck is going on.
I'd reach out to your uncle, let him know that we're doing an internal, investigation bills or whatever, let them know that,
Well, we could pay the shop. Is there a question on the shop at all?
I don't think so.
No, we could pay that because that adds up to be what, that's 537. That's $3,700, no, $5,700, $5,800 for the shop floor. But then there's one on the back of there too, that has my oh, that's the sidewalk on the west side. And some of them 4-yard floors could have been around the fire hydrant area, And I do owe the city from I don't know how to figure cement, from the approach along the south side of the apartments. So I do need to get that measurement, and I owe the city that money because it came on one or two loads. You know, it wasn't gonna be a specific load. So it was blended together there. So I do owe the city for that. So how about the one that says west side sidewalk? Is everybody all right with that one?
Didn't we pay that one already? Did we approve that one or
I
not?
think that was the north one.
Was that the north one?
Yeah, and that was way back in May. Yeah. I think that was way back in May.
What are the exceptions then we don't want to pay?
Well, it's just these
The Yonko ones are, I guess, right?
6 of them here that all have 535 Main Street on them.
There's actually 15 of them that have 535 Main Street.
Wow.
That should have never happened like that. One other question, are we paying for the all the Jake stuff that he did? The training for CDL and his health card and all that, are we reimbursing for all that? I don't know if we've done that in the past.
Well, I was wondering that myself.
I put that down under new business.
Okay, but it's in the bills though, so I just thought. we'd talk-
I feel like we have paid for it in the past.
I don't remember.
I think we have in the past.
Jerry Burr,
Yeah,
he went to Mankato. I know it wouldn't have been that expensive because this is a service down there in Mason City. And you would have the state did it.
it's different times today.
Yeah, it is.
Do it that way.
You don't have to, nothing was open and, no, I feel like we paid for it in the past, so.
I agree.
And if we didn't, we should, I think.
Well, I'd be willing to make a motion to pay the bills except for the Yonko bills that you are accepting there, and we have to make sure that everybody know that you know. You know, so I don't know how to make that clear.
Well, could we go by invoice number so we could pay?
Just like the Yonko in there, I suppose, because there's 6 of them right there.
So how about the Yonko bills for the city shop, the cold storage, and the west side? Those are the only Yonko bills to be paid.
Yeah, these ones, yeah.
Yep.
Invoice,
Until we figure it out what's going on.
yeah. Invoice 44,340 and 44,386 and 72,88.
Yes.
And that total would be what, 57, 7,000 and some odd dollars here on this one. So,
I'd be willing to make that motion to pay those bills
all right,
and the rest of the bills.
I'll second that.
all in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carried. All right, now we're down to Greg.
That's right here. Ashley, did you print
Yes,
everything?
Yes.
I made a couple of small changes. Happen to get.
it's sitting in front of Robert waiting for his signature.
These are questions I got for you.
Did you sign that?
So.
Yep.
what do we have?
This is just updated, it's the same.
Yeah, very slight changes, but I did make updates.
Okay, so I'll put that one aside.
So everyone can see me here. All right, so you've got the documents in front of you. The updated one that I just provided.
Yep, sir.
That's what we call an agreed upon procedures engagement. So that's the audit work that we did for the 6 months, first 6 months. We also have another, you should have another print off with you that includes financial statements. All right, so the results of operations for the first 6 months. I want to start with that and just go over some brief comments that I have about the financial condition of the city. And we'll get into kind of the meat and potatoes of what we saw, some of those audit procedures that we performed. So we begin with the financials, the compilation report, that you see there on that title page. And that's council to move to page 3, if you would, please. Page 3 is compilation report. So there's a couple of paragraphs there, it just describes what we did and what we didn't do. All right, so I know we like to classify this as a mid-year audit. But these financial statements are not audited, they're compiled. So we take the city's records, we make some adjustments based on known conditions. put those into a financial package to allow the city to evaluate the results for the first 6 months. All right, so that's an important nuance that I just want to point out. So let's take a quick look at some of those financial results. So we can turn to page 4, please. Page 4 is the city's balance sheet for government funds. All right, this includes everything except for the water, sewer, and refuse fund. And what you're seeing here are all your assets, cash and investments that you hold, as well as liabilities, things that you owe other parties. So what I'd like to point out or just kind of highlight on this statement, that very first row, cash and cash equivalents. You can see the cash balances for each of your major funds, the general fund, your permanent improvement revolving, some other non-major, and then your total government funds. That's the far right-hand column. You see a number there, 335,799. That number is down approximately $190,000 from where it was at December 31 of 2020. All right. We move one row down. We look at your investment balances. You look at those rows across or those columns across. Your total investments, that $623,000, that's nearly unchanged from the end of last year. All right. So now it takes a little bit of explaining. You look at me and ask, what caused, and we did take a look at this, what caused cash to go down? And as we evaluate, we really don't have the best metrics to evaluate the first 6 months of the year. And typically cities have the most cash they're ever going to hold at year end. So in December, you receive your property taxes, you've received all of your state aids, you're flush with cash at that point. So the evaluation isn't really apples to apples. So having a reduction in your cash balance of 190,000 isn't as bad as it sounds. All right, there's 2 other rows. If you continue down past investments under receivables, the intergovernmental, and the other large one there is property taxes. Approximately $300,000 came into the city's treasury in July and actually converted to cash. All right, so what I'm saying here, what you should be hearing is that your cash was down at the end of the year, at the end of the first 6 months, but 1 month forward, you received $300,000. So if we evaluate on those lines, that property tax receipt coming through your first settlement, your first installment of your local government aid, you're actually up about $100,000 from where you were at the end of last year. So great results. That's not typically what we see. Usually we see that kind of total line or just come in fairly flat. So the city's governmental funds are in actually really good shape. With the collections that you had in July, you're tracking quite well with where we were at the end of last year. All right, so let's move on to page 6, if you wouldn't mind, please. Take a look at your budget schedule. And the statement you see here on page 6 is the general fund. We show, if we take a look at this statement, the first column on the left, that's your annual budget. As we move to the right, you see that next column there, it's your 6 month budget. So there's nothing fancy going on there other than we took your annual budget and just divided it in half. Yeah, so what you need to understand is that your budgets and your expenditures, they don't just equal even, 6 months, you get half of your supplies, 6 months, you get the other half. There are certain expenditures or certain costs that the city has that are going to be either front loaded or back loaded. So as you evaluate this schedule, just keep in mind that this is an annual budget cut in half. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're over budget in one of these categories. It just shows some trends. All right, so we focus in on that top section on that statement. And I'd like the council to come down to the second underline. There's a row and it equals total revenues. All right, so you can see your annual budget for revenues, your 6 month budget, which is half of that, and your actual results of $397,000. You guys are over budget on your revenue side by approximately $102,000. Certainly a good thing. If we kind of look at why is that, there were some fire department reimbursements and township money that came through for 6 months of the year that actually related to collections or costs for 2020. They were receivable in your audit at the end of the year. They actually came through and received that cash this year. So that's the majority of that over budget, about $73,000. All right, if we move down to the second section there, under expenditures, and have you come down to that second underline. There's a row that equals or is represented by total expenditures. You can see your full budget for the year, the 6 month actual, $191,000, and you're below budget, nearly 100,000. Again, great results. You know, I'll take both of those results any day of the week. You're over on your revenues, you're under on your expenditures. Again, with the caveat that a 6 month budget doesn't equal 50% of your budget at all times. All right. So what the result there, if we look at the third row from the bottom, third column from the left, under that actual column, we look at excess of revenue over under expenditures. You see a number there, $206,000, 192. That is a gain. That is an increase in your general fund of roughly $200,000. And that's really what we're seeing as your cash balance is increasing. So excellent results. Looks like, you know, as I look through this, even on the expenditure side, you're basically under budget on every single category. So I don't know if that was a concerted effort. Maybe there's more spending coming here in the second 6 months, but the year's shaping up to be pretty good, at least for the general. Any questions on that? Let's continue to move on. If we move over to page number 7, page 7, and actually page 7 and 8 are financial statements for your business type units, so your water, sewer, and your refuse. Now we call these your enterprise funds. Your enterprise funds had a little bit different year than what the first 6 months than what your general fund did. All right, so again, let's start at the very top row, cash and cash equivalents. You can see the numbers there listed for each one of your funds, water, sewer, and refuse. Your total cash for your enterprise funds is right about $6,000. That number is down $350,000 from where it was last year. That's pretty significant. Yes, Rob.
Well, under our cash balance summary here, I looked, you know, and under our sewer fund here, it is at $325,529. Didn't we make a resolution? I think you told us before to make a resolution to move monies around to get that solvent. Did we follow through with that? Does anybody remember? Did we follow through with that and move that money?
At the end of last year. So for 2020, the city moved $150,000 from the general fund to your sewer fund. But that was insufficient to clean up the deficits that we're seeing. And really what's going on here, Robert, I don't know. Well, I can tell you for sure, the first 6 months of the year, there were no transfers. There was no money moved into that sewer fund.
Because
maybe that's what we're remembering is what we did last year.
yeah, so do you see this sheet here? Why is that balance there so negative?
That is, I think what needs to happen is there's some journal entries that need to be recorded, which will allow this to coincide with what we're seeing here. Obviously, that statement is for the end of November, right? Or is it end of October? Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is the end of June.
Oh, that's right. We got.
So there's going to be some discrepancies. I don't know if those journal entries have been posted yet. Ashley,
We have.
Yeah.
We have 4 months here then.
Yeah, so you have more spending. I would assume there's more spending going on in that sewer fund that's continuing to drive that deficit.
Well,
Would it be 350?
We got that sewer project down here. Where did that money come from?
well, that was what was $180,000, wasn't it,
There was
across
some
that?
significant spending post.
But that was done in the spring. That should be under his accounting.
I didn't anticipate that question, but if I recall properly, there was significant spending that happened in bills that were paid in July and August, if I recall correctly. I could certainly follow up with an email to the council.
Wasn't that bid from Holtmeyer, wasn't that around 180,000-ish going across that field? But then there was some other.
There's some extras in there, like 25,000.
Yeah, there was some couple big extras in there. So that would have come in probably in that.
Right in that ballpark. Yeah,
Payment.
so you're at -150 now. another 300, well, another 200, you got 180 and a 25, there's your 350 in the hole.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, we do have a charge in 21 of 218,308 under major repairs and maintenance. That's where it was taken out of.
There it is.
That was paid, that paid these
Oh,
bills
Mark.
we're talking about. And I don't know what month it was paid in, but it was paid. It wasn't paid in October, it was before that. So
It was August or September.
those are the numbers that we need to be looking at closely here. We'll talk about that later as to where they should really be coming from and how we should be handling this. Because, you know, that one line item, we're 7,000% over budget. No, that's not right. Definitely a problem here.
so there would be 4 months there about. But we would probably only have one cycle, or could we possibly have 2 cycles of water sewer collections in there to help pay this down?
Only one.
There'd be
Only one, and that is no way,
Yeah, that's why the 6-month thing is a little confusing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
but that's no, you know, there's no money there to pay that 325 down.
No.
There, no,
It needs to be sourced from somewhere else, and I recommend correcting that by the end of the year.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
Make a resolution, liquidate some of your investments if you need to, or the general fund has an excess as it stands for 6 months of roughly $200,000.
yeah.
Does that mean it's going to continue that direction? I don't know. You'll have to look at a more recent financial statement and say, yes, we have this excess, but I would, if you are going to move money, please do so by resolution.
Yep.
So Anthony, draft a resolution, get it passed here by the council before you start moving any. If you're going to liquidate investments, at least investments from the sewer fund, you have about $140,000. That's not going to cover the entirety of that deficit, but it'll get roughly halfway there.
You said the general account would have around $200,000. Is that with the last payments from the county and the state? No, because they come in after your audit, right?
Yes.
Yep.
The profit that you saw on page 6, or was it page? Page 6, the profit that you're seeing there, that includes the money that came in from Brewer County in July. It also includes your first round of your LGA.
Okay.
What line item was that in?
So page 6,
Yep,
3rd column from the left, all the way down to the 3rd number from the bottom.
that 191,
Nope.
206.
206, that's the profit.
Okay, so then with the 200,000 you were talking about in the general, with this 200,000 be basically now after this point,
Yep.
have $400,000 there to deal with in the general account.
Yes.
So we could just move our money from the general, leave our investments alone and make a resolution and move that around and get that
Yeah.
in order.
You know, and thinking about leaving investments alone, that's something else I'd like to talk about. We'll get into that. The other portion of my report. But I wouldn't hesitate if you need to stay liquid with your cash. I wouldn't hesitate to liquidate those investments because they're doing absolutely nothing for the city right now.
Right.
The money, the October payment to Blue Earth County, you know, that we all pay taxes on, when does that money come into the city then?
Collect that in December.
It will come in this business year yet.
You'll collect it in December with your second installment of your LGA, which is around 90,000.
Yep.
And then you'll receive a small portion. We call it the year-end settlement from Blue Earth County in January of 22. But that's not a significant dollar amount. So the significant money you'll receive will be in December. That's why I would suggest reviewing that in December at some point to see how much is available to the general fund. You certainly don't want to run your general fund. Why?
So saying that comes in December, would that be around that 200,000-ish again then? Should be, yeah. Should be equivalent to what we just got, really.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, so the situation in the utility funds, the water sewer specifically are, I wouldn't say dire, but it definitely is dire in that sewer fund. So if we look at the water fund, you see your cash balance there, roughly $159,000. That's down about 40 from last year as well, or sorry, the end of last year. So in December, that's down about $40,000. Majority of that has to do with a with a future well site that was purchased during 2021. So again, overall, cash to the utility funds is down 350,000. Your investment balances are roughly unchanged. All right, so you do have 167,000 in investments across those utility funds.
Yeah.
All right, so from
Yeah, we
here.
were planning for that, really. You know, we were planning for that. so.
Yep, no, I'm just trying to explain
Yeah,
kind of
just
these
so you
numbers,
know.
you know, having those cash balances down like they are, it certainly is good to understand why, so you know
Yeah.
what's happening.
And we have found some errors in the Banyan system where we're not getting some monies for sewers. Tom has analyzed all that. So I don't know, have you called Banyan? Has that all been corrected?
Yeah, there was a rate issue, but yes, it has been corrected. And then when Paul was here, there were some other issues that we went through too.
How would, to make sure, so Tom don't spend his time on it, would we have to have the clerk or you do an audit on the Banyan company to make sure we're getting everything we're supposed to do?
We look through that, we recalculate bills and we come in and do an audit. I know we found some past errors that were corrected. You know, if you wanted to ensure that you had a more robust system in there, a couple of recommendations. You're doing careful how I say this, but you're doing something that no other city in this area is doing. You're billing, what is it, per cubic foot of
Yep.
water? It's ridiculous. Why don't we use a reasonable unit of measure, gallons? Everybody understands gallons. I don't understand cubic feet of water. And I don't think-
7.5 gallons in a cubic foot.
See, some people do. I don't.
Well, and that's how our meters read too, though.
That's how our meters have been
There's
in.
more behind it than that,
Mhm.
so.
Well, we
I'm
can't
just
switch
pointing
our
out some
meters.
Things that I've noticed, so that's hard to compute sometimes, you know, if you put in your base rate or you put in your minimum usage and you have cubic feet versus gallon, it's certainly not an apples to apples comparison. I'm just putting out there what I see with the other numerous cities that we audit. You guys also bill on a quarterly basis. So if there are issues, if you have problems where there's adjustments that need to be made, you guys are doing that 3-4 months behind when that event actually took place. If there's a snowbird that leaves, you got a blown pipe, you got this and that. So it creates a lot more setting, if you will, of some of those bills. You know, I've never really understood why the city's billing quarterly. It's probably just because it's always been that way.
Yeah, it
You
has
know, and if
always been
that's the
that way.
answer, you gotta ask yourself why.
It's been that way and it's always been cubic feet. I think the only meter in town is the school. Did it get replaced with gallons again?
Years ago, I mean, you're talking 40, 50 years ago, they're all gallons, or
Yeah.
they share them, yeah.
Yeah.
That all changed when they thought they knew better. Health department decided we did only gallons.
You know, so those are two things that I see that are not really congruent with everyone else that operates out there. Is that going to correct some of the billing issues in there? Not necessarily, but it would allow for you to catch that sooner than doing a 4 time a year billing scenario.
Well, would people benefit if we did it monthly? Because we get some that get way behind. I mean, and then they get to run that bill up for 3 months and then we play the game and putting the post on there and then they come in and yep, we'll pay it tomorrow. And then you wait and it never shows up. And then you start the posting all over again and you threaten to shut it off. And I mean,
Like penalties also is on a 3-month basis, you know, so I think there is some loss of revenue or possible revenue, you know, when you're non-payers, you're gonna identify those a lot quicker. You know, so that you can start doing the shut off notices if that's what the council has as an ordinance, or collection proceedings can begin a lot sooner.
well, Ashley, you had one in your notes here, an individual, it's water bill question. You had $440 in parentheses. Is that one owed or is that one too high or what was that?
What are you talking about? On
In your daily log?
Well, I know we've talked about going to monthly. And I think it was like, well, that's 3 times the mailing. You know what I mean? Or two,
Was that one?
yeah, and labor, time to, you know, stuff the bills and stuff. So it was always like, I think we talked about it years ago and they were like, no, we're not doing it. You know, I mean, I pay mine with the budget. I'm never,
That's Oge.
We pay
O's.
monthly.
So is that a quarter or is that farther back than that?
It's further back.
Yeah.
Not on the list
Yeah,
anymore.
that's one way better
I
than
said I'm on
another.
budget now, so I'm never on the list
You
anymore.
know, we approach it. If you have timelier information, your cash flows would be better as a city.
Mhm.
When you collect on a monthly basis, then it's 4 times a year. So, but you gotta weigh that against the administrative costs as well.
Yeah.
Postage, everything else that goes along with that as well.
Well, there's a good example right there. That's owed 640. Well, how many 640s do we have? Do we have 10? Pretty soon that's $6,400, you know? So maybe in the new year, we should work at doing monthly billings. You know, would that take a whole different thing in that Banyan thing again then?
You have to restructure your rates, but it's fairly straightforward, you know.
Because then you would have to restructure your,
The rates themselves would have.
the minimums and the,
Yes.
what do you call that fee?
Base charge.
Contingency
I
fees.
just buy the rubber stamps. I don't even know.
So that would take quite a little bit of upgrading on that.
However, though,
Yeah.
that's really just a few entries, right, in Banyan? The rates,
Yeah.
the
Should be
rates
that
are
bad.
one spot, right?
Once you adjusted it all, yeah, it'd be a one deal.
I mean, but I mean, it's not like you gotta go to every account and adjust the rate.
Well,
You
I
adjust the rate.
I would assume that if we're going to go from quarterly to monthly, if I called Banyan's probably got a guy that can just go in and make that correction.
Good point.
But who's gonna check out to make sure it got done right? Because we trusted Banyan and you found a lot of mistakes.
That's her job.
Okay.
100%.
Agreed.
You.
So I mean,
Nobody else here.
Yes.
She's her job.
because the contingency fees would have to be broken down 45 times 4, that'd be what, 160? That'd have to be broken down monthly, you know, for the water and the sewer.
Probably some guy can just do that so
Yeah.
easy that.
And maybe, you know, there's another one down here, said she'd be paying $50 a month. I don't know if that one did or not, but maybe we'd be doing a lot of individuals a favor by going to a monthly charge.
I don't think we'd hurt anybody.
No. And we're taking a lot of time away from Greg. So go back at it, Greg.
Good discussion for sure. All right, so let's move on to page 8. That's the last page of the compilation. There isn't a lot that I want to discuss at this page other than to just explain it. Here is it's your profit loss statement for the utility funds. Again, that water, sewer, refuse. And as I look at this, you know, I really wasn't able to pinch anything that I wanted to point out specifically, other than to just state, if we look at your, you know, we're just obviously talking about charges, quarterly fees. That very first row under operating revenue, those are your fees that have been collected for the year. All right. And if I take your total, so the far column on the right, and take that as a ratio versus what you collected for the entire year in 2020, that's about 48% of last year's total. Now, remember what I said about your budget for the general fund. 6-month budget doesn't exactly mean half of your budget, right? But in this sense, these really ought to. You know, your utility is collecting fees, and these should be very consistent quarter to quarter, year to year, unless you have rate changes. There can be some other variations in there with having a warmer summer, being a lot of people that are water and things of that nature, but being at 48% of last year's total, unless there was something unusual with last year, which I'm not aware of, you're trending just a little bit behind. Okay. Same analysis for your operating expenses, so that middle section there. If I look at those total expenses, that's about 48% of last year's total expenses. All right, so trending a little bit down on the fees, but thankfully you're also trending a little bit low on your expenses. So overall, profit loss is nearly identical.
Did we bill out for farm use water? How do we do that? Monthly, quarterly?
I think farm use went out. I want to say July or August, maybe.
So there would be a little bit coming yet in this quarter.
So maybe the analysis of it being very even isn't, you know, and that's something else to consider as well. But honestly, being at 48% is pretty darn good, especially since your expenses are trending in that same capacity or in that same ratio.
I think we actually pumped less water this year too, if I remember right. We didn't sell as much water.
No.
Even though it was a dry year, we didn't sell as much water.
We had a few road projects out here last summer on County Road
Oh, yeah.
10. That probably bumped up our sales quite a little because they got a lot of water and we are selling that for a nickel a gallon. So that we should have had some pretty good revenues off of that last year, where this year,
That's comparison as well. And there's fluctuation, again, seasonality, weather, the projects that come through.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to just see that your expenses are holding steady.
Okay.
There isn't a wild swing one way. All right, so the last thing we want to go over here is this new form that I printed off and provided to council. This is really what you wanted to talk about, our audit procedures. This is the document that describes what we did and the results of what we did. All right, we call this, in my world, we call this an agreed upon procedures. Forms or procedures. All right, and I'm not going to read everything to you guys verbatim. You certainly can read it yourselves. Like I said, nothing substantive change from the original copy you received. So I'm just going to walk down the line. We had 6 procedures that we were going to perform. First procedure starts about third, well, the center of the first page. Item number 1. So we suggested reviewing bank reconciliations for the first 6 months of the year. And look at those and see if they're performed timely, if there was any unusual reconciling items, and just really find out what's going on in there. As you can read under item 1A, we did note that all of the bank reconciliations from February forward were not performed what we would consider timely. All right, some were a few months behind, some were several months behind. The details are listed in that statement there. We also noted a few deposits that were outstanding that should not be, as well as some electronic payments that showed up as outstanding that in our estimation are likely cleared the bank. So there's something else going on there. So I think there's some work to be done with these reconciliations. They aren't operating quite the way that we would anticipate, the way that we would expect. All right, number 2. So we selected a sample of disbursements. So we looked at all the checks, all the electronic payments, everything that happened throughout the city the first 6 months of the year, and we randomly pulled 20. All right. The results of those 20 random samples, as you can read, we found some coding errors, nothing significant. There was certainly some improvement on the city's part as far as placing some of those disbursements in the correct budget category. However, we did note 2 invoices that were paid late. So as a city government, we talked about this last year when I presented the audit. You've got 35 days from receipt of an invoice to make a payment. Unless you're disputing the claim like you are with this Yannick, or I think that's what it's called, this
Yanko.
Yanko.
yeah, the concrete business. Obviously, you're disputing some of those claims. You are within this purview of the statute is to say we're not making this payment within 35 days. We also noted 1 interest charge on a credit card statement. That's a compliance issue. The state auditor's got some information out there that cities aren't allowed to incur debt. And that's really what that is. So as you got to be very careful with these credit cards that you are paying that full balance each month so that there is no reoccurring interest charge, there's no incurred debt. All right, so again, there's ways that you can correct that. One of them would be to allow Ashley to pay bills between months.
I think we just start doing that this like July or August.
We talked about it, but there's never been an official.
We never really officially said that.
A lot of cities are moving in that direction, some in the local neighborhood. If the council wants to go in that direction, I would suggest having a policy and passing that policy by resolution, and then annually at your what you want to call it, the designation meeting where you set your bank, your attorney, all the different designations that a council is required to do at that meeting annually, refresh that policy so that it's clear what the clerk, if that's where you want to go, what the clerk treasurer is allowed to pay between meetings. You can enumerate that by type of invoice, type of bill, dollar amount. There's a number of different ways to handle that.
Credit cards usually come at the end of the month or the beginning of the new month, and you have like 10 or 15 days to pay them though, right?
Yeah.
So if we have our meetings like we do, in the second Monday, that should almost be here each time, shouldn't it?
Almost.
In a
Yeah,
perfect
and this
world,
is
yeah.
something we're seeing with a lot of the other cities that we audit, some actually fairly large ones.
I think we said-
It's no secret that the post office isn't operating at full capacity. COVID did quite a number on them. There's even talk about the first class mail being delayed even longer because they're not able to deliver it on time. So we've seen issues, you mail something from this side of the road to that side of the road, you know where it's headed. Going off whichever way.
Cities,
Those are the cities.
All right, thank you.
yeah,
It's heading all the way up to the city's process. So
back to Mankato, back to
it
here.
happens in my office and we've seen it extensively. It doesn't relieve you of that responsibility, but knowing what you're facing, I think it's reasonable to say, maybe we should give that authority. Now, that doesn't mean there's carte blanche to go out and do whatever you want. You would require that the state suggests, the state order that is, that there's an accounting of anything that is paid between meetings. And that would come with all the other bills that need to be approved. Here's what we paid between.
There's one other way we could fix that is have a meeting in between, or have every 2 weeks have a meeting.
Yep.
Because, there's times that this meeting carries on for 4 hours, and I mean, at the end of it, people are getting just, just to get gone. So, if you would hold another meeting here or two a month, you could go through, I think Mapleton has 2 a month, don't they? I believe so.
Handful of cities around that do.
Yep. And I think, they can come in and they can do their business, and they're probably in and out sometimes in an hour. And again, there's been situations where if you don't come tonight, you missed the boat for a month.
Sure.
So we might be doing people a favor, everybody, by having another county to make sure it's all better.
That's certainly an option.
Yep,
At that point, then there really would be no need for this payment between meetings.
right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
We tried that too, and I'm sure with the last clerk, they did that same agenda, the approved agenda, where all the bills and stuff were included.
Consent agenda.
Yeah, and we didn't get to discuss anything. We didn't like that because we were just approving stuff without any discussion. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was
Well-
like, there was like the first four things.
It's just like, we approved our bill thing here tonight, but we actually didn't see the bill. We approved the number and, so maybe if we did 2 meetings a month, we'd have time to review that stuff before we do payment. And, I remember what you're saying, that it didn't work out.
Right.
It didn't
I
work.
have a question on a bill. I just asked, and we've asked for more notes on the bill, so we didn't have to necessarily see it, because before it was a bill with no memo.
Yep.
Now we've got really good memos on there that pretty much explain the color coded their fire department. So we kind of can look at them and tell, and if there's one question, you just ask about the one.
Yeah. Well, that's all stuff we can figure out. We don't need to take Greg's time on this.
True.
All right, okay, moving on. So item number 3. We selected a random sample of receipts and performed some procedures on those, traced to supporting documentation, located approvals, and reconcile those to the general ledger. Happy to report of those 20 random samples. We didn't find any exceptions. So that's an improvement. That's something that at least, in my consideration, it should be there. That's expected. A lot of the receipts that we looked at were utility collections, some things of that nature. So, but very happy with what we saw there. Item number 4 was a procedure to assist and advise management with implementation of some of the recommendations that we had in our 2020 management letter. I won't go over this in any great detail. The item 4A kind of describes what we did. So one of the reoccurring themes that we're seeing out here is some difficulties with payroll reporting, proper function of the payroll system, as well as what's going on with sales tax and things of that nature. So we discussed it with the clerk treasurer, assisted and advised how to do that on an appropriate basis. All right, on to the next page, item number 5. We looked at how the city is deploying your accounting software. specifically Banyan Fund Accounting with all the other modular add-ons, either payroll and utility billing. We did not note any exceptions while applying that procedure. And we also reviewed journal entries. We didn't note any exceptions because there were no journal entries. Okay. All right, so what follows here, we had those enumerated procedures, items that we were going to look at, those reconciliations, random sample of disbursements, receipts, all the cities using the software. But certain things came to our attention that were impossible not to see. All right, so as we were going through our procedures, we noted a handful of things that needs to be discussed, and at least some of our considerations and recommendations how to correct some of that. So observation number one, as well as number four are somewhat related, so I'll kind of speak to those together. As I already kind of alluded, payroll continues to be an issue with the city. As we were going through our process, our procedures to put the financial statements together, we noted the payroll liabilities in the city's general ledger were in deficit balances, which we've done this a long enough time. We know what that means. Some of the payments are being applied properly. So we looked a little bit closer and we noted that the city is paying their payroll taxes on a quarterly basis. However, the state of Minnesota and the IRS require those to be paid on a monthly basis. All right, so this is a reoccurrence from
The state and the federal are quarterly or monthly.
yes.
Didn't you just say at our personnel meeting that they were quarterly?
Yes, because that's what it says on MMB,
MMB.
Minnesota Management Business,
No, should be Minnesota Revenue.
or MinRep, yeah, sorry.
Yep. So quarterly versus monthly. So those need to be paid on a monthly basis to be considered time. All right, so this is a recurrence, something we've seen in the past. Now, sales tax is paid monthly as well. And they're very similar. The dates are a little bit different. You need to pay the payroll tax. You need to pay those by the 15th of the following month. Sales tax is due on the 10th of the following.
10th,
20th.
20th?
Yep.
And the payroll is all on the 15th,
Correct. All right,
state and federal.
yes.
The last time we talked about this, we set up as a personnel committee, a reminder system that every 3 months. And we were told every 3 months at the last time we talked about this.
Reports are due quarterly. All right,
Okay.
so the city files a 941 which is quarterly payroll return. That's due at the end of the month
Okay,
following that quarter end. So let's say, for instance, first quarter ends March 31, that report is due April 30th.
okay,
Okay, so the reports are due quarterly. So it depends really on how large your payroll is. Some in the city of Mankato, their payroll's so large, they've got to make their deposit the next day. So they run payroll, the next day they deposit with the IRS. They report their payroll quarterly. Everyone does. Okay, so there's a lot of different dates moving around. We've had this discussion. We've had it more than once. And I think it really just boils down to having some of these procedures, having checklists, and just ensuring that they go through. So, one of our recommendations, and again, observation number 1 and 4 are really kind of the same thing. So our recommendations are basically the same. So what we're asking for is the clerk and council to review general ledger accounts to ensure that they are, that they present the proper balances. And one of the better things that I think would be, I'd strongly suggest looking into is getting the city clerk to work with a mentor. And that's the new language that I put in this report. So I feel it would be quite helpful to her development if there was a mentor, whether it be somebody past or current that has city government experience that can come in here, and it doesn't need to rely on the audit firm to find some of these things 6 months, 8 months past when they actually occurred. That's something that I think I've mentioned, maybe not formally in a report, but we've talked about it kind of off the cuff. And that mentorship could be, whatever the council thinks it ought to be. It could be somebody from a neighboring city, whomever, paid or unpaid. There is, I think you guys belong to the Council of Governments. I don't know if
we're not a member there anymore.
Anymore. You were in the past.
Yep.
So they have some staff there that can assist, but they're gonna charge you for those sorts of things.
That guy we used before, Tom, that you mentioned, what's his name?
South Central Service Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wendell.
Wendell Sand,
Wendell, would they have people that could mentor?
I believe so. I mean, it'd certainly be a good starting point, so I think mentoring would be great. We can't be here, Ashley certainly has an open invitation to call or email us, whenever there's a question, and she does. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know. If you're not aware that something's wrong, it's gonna be pretty darn hard to fix that. This is where a mentor could come in, talk over what's going on. Hey, did you know quarter ends? Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to get this report in. We got to do this, review some of these budget and actuals. I also would highly recommend to continuing, I'm not sure if this is happening, I think it is, continue just general accounting and payroll training. I think that's got to be a continual basis. Payroll changes every year. I mean, the laws, rules, especially with COVID, we've seen significant change in just compliance. Right, so you can learn it once, but it changes. So you can't just stay stagnant with that. You have to every year go back and do some more accounting, do some more payroll training.
Well, is that what these schools are for, the clerk schools, when they have them in St. Cloud, or don't they get into
Every
payroll?
one of those, I understand that they're there to help and give guidance. I don't know if they get into the nitty gritty with accounting. I don't know if they talk about payroll compliance specifically. I think it's more of a networking situation, and they provide just general information on new statutes, changes in the operating environment cities have, which is good. Absolutely continue to do that. But again, there's other opportunities for other other training, just specifically in some of these areas where there's a high degree of compliance, high degree of potential issues to the city.
So with stuff not getting paid on time or whatever, do we ever get fined from the Fed or the state?
There are penalties and interests that come through. Yep.
Have they come
I don't
for?
have a dollar amount in any of those. But yeah, if you're making those payments late, you file your return late, they will assess penalties. You can ask for an abatement, which the IRS can grant. The state's a little bit better with those, but they certainly will accrue penalties if they're not done time.
All right.
All right, so observation number 2, I've already kind of touched on this a little bit. During the first 6 months of 21, the city earned approximately $40 of earnings on your investments.
Wow.
We gotta double check this because I computed the math, and that's terrible. That's 0.001%.
Is there something we can do with that investments to make it?
I would reach out to some other banks. The state of Minnesota has what we call a 4M fund. Sure what the 4M stand for. I know Minnesota is one of them, municipals another, but they offer some investment vehicles that the interest rates aren't there anything to write home about, but they're certainly better than what you're seeing
Well, I guess so.
in your deposits now.
We were told when we had all this that we had to invest in this, the money where it's at, wasn't it?
That was during
I questioned it,
Heather Zero, right?
but I mean, I questioned it because I'm going,
Yeah.
The thing is,
that
that
isn't,
I think something expired because we were in something for like 3 years and it expired because we were like making $1,500 a year and then
A lot better.
and then it went to
Yeah.
zero. So I think something didn't get
At one
renewed.
point, you guys were in what they call a CDARS. Certificate of deposit, account registration sort of thing, and it takes your money and it spreads it out into all these CDs throughout the state or out basically the nation. And they can get you better interest rates. They also get you underneath the FDIC insurance limit as well. I don't honestly know, I don't recall what your investments are right now, but they really need to be reconsidered. You've got, what is it, $790,000 in investments? $20 in interest for the first part of the year. You can do better. Yeah, you can certainly do better. So.
And yeah, I don't know if it's in that one or again.
$60.18 year to date. That's the first 10 months of the year.
Was in like 7, 15.
And this one here is the one I can't understand. It says uninsured deposits of 140,500 594. I think I asked Tom or the council one time about that one.
This is pledge collateral. So this is not, these aren't your investments. This is,
That's on the
this is-
general ledger.
this is the bank's investment pledge for your deposit. So you've got certain dollar amounts in checking.
Yep.
Anything that exceeds about 250,000, give or take, must be insured. That is the bank's money that they're saying, we're gonna put this on. If US Bank tanks and they roll up shop and pull out of town, that money is yours.
But we have enough collateral, say.
From what we saw, yes.
Okay,
Yep. We looked at that. US Bank, it was a handful of years ago, there was some issues there. They corrected that problem. And now you guys, every time we come in here, we have not seen an issue where you're underinsured.
okay.
But yeah, these investments are, you got quite a bit just sitting in cash. Half of your balance is cash, the rest is.
You don't ever ask to see those when you come out, Greg?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
why we noted, that's why we double checked, like, this just doesn't make sense, $40
Yeah,
on the balances that you hold. Now, the state of Minnesota does not give you very much leeway in what you're able to put your money into because, years ago, some cities got themselves into trouble with derivatives and some exotic type investments. But I'm certain you could do better. I can tell you right now, the bank in Lake Crystal, is it Minstar? They can do better.
really.
You can get a 1% CD and it would blow this thing away. So you guys tie your money up a little bit, so give some consideration to that. It'll take a little bit more work on the city's part. Because here you can just stick it in there and let it go. But if you work with some of the regional banks around here, I'm certain you can do a little bit better.
Well, if you took that 790 and you gave it, just say for that bank, just for instance, not saying that's going to happen. How long would they want you to put that in there as a whole, or would you divide that up into 3 equal entities? So in case you ever wanted some, you could do that. Is that how you would do that?
You can stagger it. That's called a CD ladder.
And I think they did that before on that,
Yep.
that guys that were out here, they were explaining that ladder.
So you got maybe one CD goes for 24 months. There's always a risk. You have to consider, where are your interest rates going? No one has a crystal ball, but it's safe to say with inflation the way it is, interest rates will start to rise. And with it, your cost of borrowing. So your interest on any money that you're going to end up borrowing as well. So you don't want to lock yourself in on a really low rate for 2 years and, interest rates spike and now you're earning very little on a CD that could do a lot better. So there's always risk involved with any type of investments, but if you work with the guys at the bank and just tell them you want to stay liquid, you want to be able to access this money if you have that opportunity or have that need and just stagger it, I would say no more than 12-month CD at this stage of the game. Just
No more than what?
volatility. 12 months.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of volatility. It's 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, and this, as they renew, let them renew. You're not liquidating. This is pretty well stayed put as long as I can recall. So,
Yeah.
It's excess. Let them get to work.
Yeah, because that's so trivial, that little $40 and a $790,000
No,
investment.
that just makes you sick.
That's-
I've reached out to Larry, I think was the point of contact twice. And he was supposed to be at the last month and this month, and he just.
Yeah, we need to work at something there. Yeah.
Yep, I think you can do a lot better. All right, so observation number 2. This is one, again, we go through a lot of procedures. This wasn't one of the random samples for disbursements, but we noted this as we were putting the financial statements together, really because of the budget variance that was created. I'm sure everyone here has read this. So what happened here, just kind of in a nutshell, there's a vendor, it's an online vendor, contacted the city, said, hey, prices are going up for this certain product. So you purchased this and did so 3 times this year, totaling approximately between $5,000 and $7,000 for some office supplies. We found that to be excessive, and we did some digging. We found out this vendor has a history of this, has scammed multiple other entities, and are charging between 4 and 5 times what you could receive this product for locally over here at Office Max in Mankato. Little concerned, you know, those bills were paid, those bills were approved. It did come through any process. There was nothing in place that rose the flag go up the flagpole or the question being made. So I've talked to the city. It sounds like the goods are here. When we first saw this, we thought possibly there was some kind of malfeasance happening. The goods shipped, the goods were received. You know, it's just a matter of paying quite a premium for what you received.
Well, was this happening a year ago at this time?
This has happened a handful of times. I've got some more information on that if you'd like to talk about that. So in total, there were 6 disbursements made to this vendor. It's Corporate Warehouse Supply. You look them up online and you'll be shocked. The first Google hit we had was toner scam.
Oh,
And they've done it, they're very unscrupulous. You look at their invoices say no refunds, no cash refunds for any reason. You go on the Better Business Bureau, they have a 1-star rating with hundreds of negative reviews. So they're good at what they do. They talk fast and they feel like crazy, and then you don't see or hear from them again. So there were 6 charges, 3 last year, 3 this year.
So this was happening a year ago
It was.
and you didn't see it then, or?
Well, it wasn't to the degree. So the 3 payments from 2020, there was only 1 toner cartridge purchase for $500 on one invoice, 2 on another. So overall, this looks like about $2,000.
For last year.
Yep, $2,600, somewhere in that ballpark.
And this year we're
This
between
year-
5 and 7?
It was over $6,000, you know, for 2021.
I seen it 2 months ago, but the meeting was, like Robert said, it was already 10 o'clock. Didn't want to ask him more questions. I seen it was that much over budget then.
well, and the thing is I'm a layman. I mean, I wouldn't look at, you know, toners this much and I wouldn't recognize a red flag. But, you know, maybe if we were going through our bills and we saw a difference from what it used to be to what it is now, we as a council could have maybe caught this sooner.
Well, you should never do nothing on that online or on the phone. They're scammers. When you got a local Office Max or whatever in Mankato, why do you go to LA or New York or Atlanta? Take care of business 12 miles away.
Well,
Simple.
I remember somebody coming out to service that and,
Well, yeah, they used to service it. Yeah.
and bring the toner out. So,
But it's interesting because we don't own that machine and they charge us by the use.
You get toner for free under a service plan.
Yeah, so.
And the reason we have the same copier at my office. And I'm like, when I looked at the invoice, I said, why does the city need 9 toner cartridges? I can promise you, my office puts out more paper than you guys do. We use 1 a year.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, what's going on? So we pulled them in, obviously they're here, and you guys have toner for the ages.
yeah,
But with your service plan, if you're using, I don't know. we have-
Rico?
Metro, if you pay for the service plan, toner's free.
They used to come in yearly, but that might have been back
Toner, and they'll give you toner.
5
as part of the
years.
contract.
really.
So,
I think we bought a machine when Cheryl was here yet, right?
I think so too.
It was a new one 6 years ago.
Yeah. Mhm. So we never did follow up with a usually we were pretty good about following up with a maintenance
Well, it's
contract.
in the budget. I mean, it's. Here again, this is why we need to look at the bills,
Yep.
the actual bills, the paper bills, and not rely on just somebody putting them into a Excel
and
sheet.
it'll find that stuff. You watch those budgets.
More eyes is better, especially on those
It's more
bills.
management on our side we have to do.
And again,
We
that's,
have to do more management. That's obvious.
like I
There's
said,
also another way.
at the personnel meeting, maybe the council is failing to do their job here because, you know, that is our job to oversee the bills. And when we just get that one, like John just said, with it all there, we don't know what we got for that X amount of dollars, where if you see that, you know, it might have clicked in. So, you know, leaning towards 2 meetings a month might make this better for everybody and the town, you know?
So Great, great thoughts there. Our recommendation, there's a fail-safe way to correct this. It's to have an approved vendors list.
Yeah.
It's not something that a lot of small cities have, but it would absolutely, this never would have happened. You would demand that city purchases are made from an approved list. You want to add some of that vendor list, you're going to do some research. Google's your friend, and you'll find a lot of that. So corporate warehouse supply would never have made your approved vendor list. So when they call on the phone, and one thing you got to be considered, I don't want to scare anyone here, but we audit 40 cities. 2 this year have had ransomware attacks and paid handsomely to get their data back. You know, the internet's a wild west. I mean, I can only imagine the number of emails you receive a day, scam emails, phishing emails, phone calls, people attempting to defraud the city. You don't have to just worry about fraud from internal. You got to worry about fraud from everyone that's out there. You know, I could go on and on, just the horror stories. Somebody gets a check from your city. They got your routing number, they got your account number. They hop online, they do a social engineer, and they can pull money out of your accounts. It's that easy.
I'm sure glad I'm stuck in the 70s.
Yeah, it's frightening. So using an approved vendors list, you vet these vendors, and you demand that they only send huge bills. Okay, here's my vendor list. You see one that you're not familiar with, what's going on here?
Well,
You're not gonna have a problem.
just for instance, we bought a few things from, what was that magazine? Was it Quill?
Uline?
Well,
Uline, yeah, for the city shop. But you know, that's a reputable company that sends a catalog out all the time. We paid with that with credit card, right, I suppose, or did you answer a check?
I believe they invoiced us, so that's a check to them.
Okay. Is that a better way to do business with people like that
absolutely.
than a credit card?
Credit card they give some protections. Obviously, if you're defrauded on a credit card, you got the bank to back you, what, $50,000 or whatever it ends up being. You know, just make sure you pay that bill off every month. You know, so it adds some other things to consider, but approved vendors list would be great. Watching those budgets, you know, some of you guys have suspicions or intuition, stuff about line there. It didn't take me very long to find it. I just went through and like, whoa, what's happening here? Why is there $6,000 off the supplies? And how it came, you know, so just trust those budgets, look at those schedules, look at those financials and trust them. They're gonna, a lot of times, they aren't gonna lead you astray.
But we got some from them a year ago, but obviously they kicked up the quantity this year.
No, well, yeah, I think so. I mean, the pricing was pretty, you look at that one invoice, you can look it up, it's $500 of one toner cartridge. So they talk fast. Yep, prices are going up. You gotta, this is your service. We're gonna send it to you, make sure you don't run out, and it just keeps coming through and through and through. All right, so number 4, observation 4, we've already kind of talked about with payroll. Number 5, if you guys agree with me on this one, but I'd like to spend at least a little bit of time providing you my thoughts on what happened with this program. So you guys are fairly well aware, you received a call it program income from a former SCDP grant. This was way back in what, 16, maybe 17, sure, this year when this grant was originally put together by MDAC. And you receive program income. So this is when a former grantee sold a house and didn't live in it that 10 years, and this money came back, and there might have been a couple houses. Well, the city received $21,000 back in 2020 and redispersed the entirety of those dollars in the first 6 months of 2021. I was not pleased with the process that unfolded. I wasn't pleased with the criteria or the lack of criteria for how you redisperse this money. I don't want to get into too many nitty gritties, but there was lack of good records. The applications were incomplete. It really didn't, you know, in a nutshell, and I can first leave you guys my notes if you'd like. In a nutshell, it really just didn't follow the spirit and spirit of the grant award, that original grant. I suggest in the future if there is any other program income that is received by the city, I'd like to see a very well-defined, delineated criteria for who is eligible for these grants. What kind of rehabilitation is going to be acceptable under these grants? You guys are approving work that happened months ago, before that grant program even came into being. A lot of challenges. And the reason I'm saying this, not to browbeat the council, but you can run yourselves into trouble. Certainly get a situation where one homeowner, one neighbor doesn't like the other neighbor, starts drawing complaints. I know there was at least a little bit of that coming through with somebody and some back taxes. It can mushroom out of control real fast. So if you receive a large amount of money in the future, set some guidelines, set some policies, and apply those consistently across the board. Or another option would be to contact MVAC Judge Schultz, who was the original grant administrator on this program, and he basically does all of them in southern Minnesota, and let them decide.
Yes, we should have done.
Direct all your residents, say, hey, you know what, we're gonna have Judd take care of this. I'm certain he'd do it. There'd probably be a fee involved, but they're not terribly costly. Take it out of the council's hands. I know there's some benefit to having that more local, that you guys understand what's happening in this city, but again, you get into the dirty business.
Would he have been doing the applications then?
Well, when the original grant went through, he did. So it was, you guys blanketly approved that, but all of it went to him. He managed all the compliance. He made sure there was income criteria that were met. The application was complete with all the documents behind it, and then followed up with payment to vendors. So just a lot of issues. You guys paid homeowners where this program didn't allow for that. The program allowed for payment to vendors only. So there were just some concerns. It wasn't technically, or it wasn't, actually the grant money, it's program income. And if you read the original grant award, it suggests that you should follow the program guidelines. It suggests that you should redisperse that under those same conditions. But if you read it to a letter of the T, it doesn't specifically say you must. All right. But again, it's better ways to do it. I think it's one of those things I would consider moving forward to take the concern about conflicts of interest or anything else. Excuse me. It may just be better to offload that to another entity.
And that's the small cities revolving fund?
Small cities development program, yes.
Okay, well, our small cities revolving is $1,401 in the hole. How do we correct that one?
It should be now, if you, after you did and one of the, sorry, I got to tickle my throat, I've been talking too long. There was a miscode into that grant fund. The bleachers down at the Thunder Park.
Yeah.
It was roughly $11,000. That was recorded against those grant monies. And that initially drove that fund into a significant deficit. We found it in our first 6 months review of the expenses, and we moved it into the proper category. So it came out of those. You can't use that.
Yeah, that should have came out of the park fund, right? Wasn't that where it was originally come from?
Coded wrong.
It was just coded wrong. It was just a.
There's an error.
Yeah, but see, when you code it gets coded wrong, it causes issues,
It does.
you know?
Absolutely, especially if you're talking grant dollars and things that have a high level of compliance, and this is one of them.
So this one here, though, do we have to make that solvent? It's running in the hole.
Yes. You need to probably take a look at that. So you overspent, and I guess as your auditor, I would ask, where did this money come from and how was it spent? You have no authority to provide grants to a homeowner. Cities lack that authority 100%. EDAs have some leverage or have some latitude for doing those sorts of things. You look at the program, that program income, you're able to do it. It's loose, it's a little bit gray. I don't want to bore you with a lot of the legalese involved there. But if you received $21,000 and you had $22,000 of grants to homeowners, you've got a compliance issue. You have to disperse public dollars only under allowed conditions.
Is that what we did? On one of these?
Likely.
Well, the
That's a
thing,
shame.
the thing is that we
Yeah.
allowed the balance of the count to that final person. And he submitted bills above and beyond that grant, if you will. We said there's X amount of dollars left, you're welcome to that, and he was under the implication that he was gonna get $5,000.
And that was the one that had the issues with that
Yeah,
application too.
right.
So I think we should get out of the application business and let Judge Schultz do it if there's somebody
Absolutely.
Yeah.
to alleviate all these problems and getting us in trouble.
You know, you guys have talked.
Well, it seems like a good idea when we're doing it, but then we learn that we're not, we don't know what we're doing.
And when you know better, you do better.
With compliance, you sometimes just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone here would agree that you're more than willing to follow the rules and the guidelines that are in place, but sometimes if you don't know what those are, you can already make mistakes in that judgment. You can run yourself into a problem.
And that individual there didn't have the whole form filled out right. And right now, if we had a second party doing that, we would know that there wouldn't even been no money dispersed till that was resolved.
Yeah, and that was our fault.
And we took credit for that mistake because we blanket approved them
Yeah,
without looking through them all.
Yeah.
To know if there was a signature page missing and stuff like that.
so now we,
Learning from that for sure.
The applications, to say the least.
Here again, we gotta be better managers. We gotta be in managing this. More person,
yep.
the 2 meetings a month might be good.
Okay, back to you, Greg.
Well, yeah, you guys are gonna. I always like to leave off with just have a little bit better than just a doom and gloom and honestly, my job is to tell you what's wrong. We have to say, yep, it's great. There's nothing, there isn't anything that you can change. or- It sounds like a great session. Sounds like a lot of finger pointing, but as I look at the city where you were a year and a half ago, reporting is improving, just the operation of the city, there are improvements. There are some things that are maddening and that they're reoccurring. We're off to correct. So, the finances, the general fund look great. Utility funds, not as much, but you understand what's going on. Infrastructure is costly. So, but I would also caution, if you guys are going to continue to see that level of spending out of the sewer fund, that you may want to find other ways to finance it. Instead of doing that internally, you may want to look to debt. You honestly do. And it's not a bad thing. I know you've been very proud of yourselves, not carrying any debt, which is great. You got that one bond paid off. But if you go any further, that's going to tax those utility systems quite a bit. And so I just caution you there, but all in all, finances have improved, and there'll be some good results here at the end of the year.
But like we discussed with the money coming into December, what we just got, we're solvent enough in our general ledger to able to support that payment. So I mean, you're the money guy. Knowing that we have that and we don't expect any big expenditures now, we don't, we aren't planning on anything right now, except for the pump house that we need work done. Would it be better to go borrow money right now and put that out over 5 or 7 years at the interest rates? Or are we better off just doing our in-house financing once more? And then if we have projects come up, we go bond and get loans like that.
That's a loaded question. I think there's so much going on there that that's hard to answer just outright. I can tell you what I've seen is that borrowing right now is
Cheap,
dirt cheap.
sure cheap, yeah.
Well, not dirt from up north, but cheap. There's some cities in Faribault County that have multi-million-dollar projects right now. They had to sell a bond on the open market, so it wasn't government backed. It will eventually turn to government backed 1.5%.
Really,
Ridiculous. Multi-million-dollar project, 1.5%. This was a year ago, and I think the conventional wisdom, or at least again, no one's got a crystal ball, but I think everyone in the industry is saying they're gonna go up as inflation increases. You're seeing it already. Costs are rising, your cost of capital borrowing is gonna go up. So if you have a large project where you're teetering, yeah, we could finance a portion of this internally. Could potentially put you in a situation where your cash flows aren't as strong as you'd like. Or you can expand your project out, do a little bit more than what you really would have wanted to otherwise, issue debt at 1.5%. I think you're gonna be better off in the long run going that route. You know, because what I'd suggest to the council, I don't want to get too high in the clouds here, but your balance sheet is important, but that's not everything. You know, really what's important is cash flows, that income statement. How well are we bringing money in and how is it going out the door? You know, you hear it all the time, the debt limit and this and that going on with the federal government. Obviously, that's not a consideration or concern of yours. Your balance sheet's important, but there is something else that's more vital. And again, that's cash. That's your receipts from property tax, your aids, and everything that supports. Makes sense or not, but you gotta balance both, but don't get too worried about, we don't want to take on too much debt. Ask yourself, can we afford to pay that debt? Especially if it's gonna put the city in a tough spot, if you were to pay that.
Well, Tom has been watching the water, mainly the water, last year or better, and he's kept coming up. We're falling short. So he's been keeping an eye on that. And we've talked about a meeting ago or so about going up a little bit. He brought an analysis that this is what it costs if you go up this much, you know. It isn't too much on this individual, but on this, yeah, it raises quite a little. But again, it's one of those that's got a cash flow itself. Mhm.
You know, so again, you guys have done some good things. You've done some infrastructure work, but as you see, those dollars and those bills can get large real fast. So just, I would caution you on continuing the level of spending that you are in the utility.
Keep you too much longer, but as long as you're here. I have to ask some questions about the reports that we are getting from Ashley out of Banyan here. Can you put the cash balance summary up there?
I was having the same problem. Then I clicked on open at the top. Oh, it's not working.
Make that bigger. Well, I mean, here's my question. It just doesn't make sense. Now, 2 months ago, it did. But now this is all kind of like askew again. If you add, I should be able to add the beginning balance, the receipts, subtract the disbursement, subtract the payroll. It should be that number right there, and shouldn't it?
Seems reasonable, yeah.
It doesn't.
It's not
It's
crossing.
off like, again, that's off like 30 grand or something like that. Every one of them that has something going on in the middle is off. And that bothers me. This is the way it was a couple of meetings ago. And there was a meeting or so that was correct. Now it's back to this again. The other thing that bothers me when I look at this is that I can't find where these numbers come from. I think this is the right number here. If you look up the total disbursements off from the individual expense reports that we get by account, that's a different number than what's here. So something's wrong.
So what I would say is happening, there's a couple of things. Now, I know that the report, the bills that you got from Ashley are on an Excel sheet. They're hand typed. I know that's been happening. I think Heather started that. It might even have began with Cheryl. I don't know why that is. You know, I don't know why. If I were doing it and if I were on the council, I would demand a claims list from the accounting system. Then you're going to know that everything that you see in front of you is actually in your accounting system. And you're able to trust the reports you're seeing. Now, if you're looking at disbursement registers or ledgers from the accounting system versus a cash control, but the checkbook isn't balanced timely. Let's say the checkbook, I apologize for not pointing fingers, but let's say the checkbook is reconciled 3 to 4 months late. There's electronic activity that's in there, in the bank, that's not sitting in your general ledger. That does get placed in there once those books are balanced. That could be partly why you're seeing it. So you're not doing an apples to apples comparison. You're looking at your expenses general ledger, then you're looking at a cash control. After the reconciliation happens, they sometimes won't jive.
Yeah.
So that's why I strongly recommend, you should demand a bank rec on a monthly basis. There really is no reason not to, it's early in the month now. You guys went to the 2 times a month, it wouldn't be a problem, but at least you should be looking at September's bank rec. Is that here on the table somewhere?
Right, that goes along with.
No, it's in the office.
And managing.
Yep.
Managing work.
And that's part of the management side where, okay, let me see that bank rec.
Yeah.
And review it, because we found some items that really should be on there, and again, I'm not trying to come down too hard, but that's my suspicion that you're seeing those differences. It also could be journal entries end up on there a little bit weird too, Tom. So without investigating a little bit deeper, I can't be 100% certain.
Yeah.
But we looked through the first 6 months and there's no journal entries, other than what you're seeing with payroll's listed up there. So,
Okay. See, we don't.
but I want you to
I
trust
work in the dump.
I want you to trust those reports.
I don't do this every day. You know what I mean? It's really hard to, and I don't have that kind of time either to look at it that closely all the time. And that's why I really truly agree with your recommendation of the mentor. We need to improve something here somehow, so. We'll talk about that later. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at that correctly.
Yep, you are.
I got a couple questions on our City of Good Thunder Revenue Guideline Council. Under contributions and donations, year-to-date budget is 30,000. Year-to-date, we have 2,100. I had contributions and donations. Where does that come from?
Are you talking the compilation report?
It's on the revenue side here.
Right there.
Revenue guideline. Yeah.
Okay, these here. Where does that come from? Last year it was $20,000 today.
Typically, that's probably from the fire relief, would be my guess.
That's what
If
I-
it's anything fire department related, the relief, do they have gambling at the relief?
But that don't come to us.
There's a separate line item for fire state aid.
It
besides
should.
that.
Yeah, if they want equipment purchase for them, I think the relief does that, right?
Yeah,
So many cities but I'm pretty confident you guys get at least some contributions annually from
and
the relief.
so far we've gotten $74,400. There's a different line item for fire department, reimbursement.
That could be something else. I honestly,
Okay,
Robert, I don't.
and then this reimbursements here,
Yeah,
where does this money come from? Here's another one, special assessments. We have all of our bonds paid off.
Yep.
And we're still, year to date,
you are. Yeah.
32,950.
We're still collecting though for those.
Yep.
Yes, are they, because we paid
This
you
is,
some of that ahead, right?
Yes, you paid that debt off already.
Yeah, okay, so,
And and it was an old project, so that was done and paid for, but and sometimes a special assessments can defer. So if you're over 65, you don't have to pay on them, and then they get put back into repayment. So you're gonna collect on those for a handful of more years. And that money is free and clear, so, well, not free and clear, but it's unrestricted.
it comes
So
back
you
in
don't-
because we've already paid.
You've already paid it, the debt's been retired. When you receive that money, you have no
It's ours.
strings whatsoever. Use it however you want.
Okay, and then down here in miscellaneous revenues, year to date, 84,28.
That's a
Okay, where does miscellaneous $8,400 come
Good
from?
question. It probably should. It maybe is something that needs to be recategorized to something else. These are the kind of questions that you should ask. That's gonna catch, a handful of these issues that we came up with. Why, you really should see a lot of miscellaneous expense or revenues. 8,400 seems a little high, maybe it's valid, but the question needs to be asked and answered.
Well,
I don't know.
When you start really looking at that, which Tom has analyzed it, and I know Jim looks at it, and when you
Yeah.
start looking, you gotta ask yourself, where are these coming from? You know, at least this is on the plus side, it's not on the
Yeah,
negative side,
Agreed, agreed.
you know?
But you get, yeah, I agree that, and those are the kind of things that just a real simple analysis will point out, you know? This is way over collected versus what we saw last year, and honestly, everything you receive, it should be fairly consistent from year to year, and if it's not, it should be explainable. And that's what you need to key in on, is explain what's going on.
That's what you do.
You know, not that it's wrong that it's there, but understanding why, it's,
We have to justify why it's there.
yeah. Explain.
All right. All right, any other questions for Greg then? Anybody?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Greg. All right, we can move on to sheriff's report. Like we had 60 hours in October, some calls of service for 911, hang up, animal complaint, disturbance, suspicious circumstance, suspicious vehicle, assist to ambulance and fire department. All pretty much general, what happens month after month, right?
Yeah.
So anybody got any complaints? Everybody fine? Thanks again, Greg.
Have a good night.
Every-
No, I haven't had any complaints.
All right.
I still see them, you know. I guess I've gone more, but I still see them early in the morning, so that's good.
Yep. Okay, fire department, October, they had 7 calls, 1 structure fire, 1 smoke investigation, 2 mutual aid fires and 3 medicals. That's pretty plain, simple. Street department, Jake texted me at 6:30 this morning, had 102 temp. So we don't have anything. We have 1 zoning permit from that same address, 535 Main Street.
I gotta look at that again. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Sounds right.
yep. And no fee, was somebody know what the fee would be on that? Is that? $20 fee? I don't know.
That's what you-
How do we just, there's a fee, right, usually for some structure?
Not every.
For, what are we talking about, just for the permit application?
For the fence on top of the wall, right?
Yeah, fence on top of the wall. You know,
I don't know. I would have to look it up.
somebody that,
I thought it was 20.
Well, it's a $20 permit fee,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not a new structure, because those are more,
those are 100.
yeah. Ooh,
all right. With that on there, then somebody want to make a motion to, there is only 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve.
So move.
Everyone just, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. All right, motion passed.
Second, Nancy.
No,
Pardon?
Did somebody second the motion?
I
I
didn't
made
hear-
the motion. Who seconded?
I'll second the motion.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know who seconded it.
Because otherwise she'll be.
I just thought I didn't hear somebody again.
Yeah,
My hearing aid went dead. Okay, we're down to community comment. Anybody? Do we have anybody on there? Oh, yeah, we do. Anybody, community commented? Now would be the time. If not, we can move on to unfinished business. We already talked about both of those.
yeah.
So we can move on to new business. And we got a bill from the gas company and yeah, when I was digging out sidewalks, it was on them areas where the dirt went up really rapidly. And yep, I don't believe it was under the ground like 18 inches like supposed to be. So,
Probably only 8-10 inches maybe.
yep,
Yeah.
because I mean, we weren't lowering anything there, but the sidewalk come out and so
Well, it's ours to pay, so
pardon?
it's ours to pay. It was our project.
Yeah, but I was responsible. How does that work?
Well, if Jake would have been on the machine, he'd be responsible.
Yeah. All right. Somebody want to make a motion then to pay that?
Move.
I'm in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
I oppose, motion carried. Okay, we already talked about the next one too. Is everybody all right then? Do we need a motion then for this?
That was in the bills, right?
It was in the
Yep.
bills.
Yeah, so we've
I just
already
wondered-
approved that.
I just wonder if we should make sure it's in our policies that we're gonna cover it, because we probably should have it in there if we're gonna cover the health card and the stuff like that. I don't think it's in our
I
policy.
don't remember.
I guess if the circumstance ever comes again, are we gonna help the individual attain it like we did this time? Is that our goal? You know,
We did that a time before,
yeah,
you know,
But you know, are you gonna pay his health card every 2 years? Because you're paying that right now. So is that gonna be our policy?
I don't think we should have to pay the health
Or
card.
that was in the bills?
Well, was that a health card or drug?
It was a health card. It was from
Yeah, from the blue chiropractic or whatever.
the OPE.
Oh, the DOT physical?
DOT physical.
No,
Mapleton.
Do your guys pay for their own?
no, I pay for them.
How about your guys?
No, we paid for them.
Yeah. It's just one of them things you do that,
In my opinion, I think we should just be silent on it for now. I mean, who knows, maybe in 2 years, if something happens and we have to do this again, the labor market will be entirely different. It'll be back the way it was, you know, we can be more independent from that person having or getting, obtaining a health card. But this day and age now, if you're going to get people to drive and do this, you almost have to pay for it all. Because they just won't.
Right,
You know,
I just
in
wonder
order
if
to
it should
entice
be in our
them to do it.
personnel policy
Yeah.
that we're paying for it, or just saying, you want to wait.
Like, you know, you said, or somebody said, you know, if the situation arises again, you know, we can deal with it at that time, I would suggest. Because who knows, you know, it might turn all around, we won't have to put it in our personnel policy and pay for it, you know?
Well, what was the cost? It wasn't that much.
$99.
Every 2
Yeah.
years, it's not that big expense, but it's
No,
just,
it's just the idea of it, you know, but it's a little different times now, so.
I didn't hear, you pay for your trucker or for your drivers
We pay for the driver.
physical?
Yep, the company pays for everything.
I just thought we've always paid for physicals, like, or the continuation one. I don't know.
We have in the past, we've helped along.
We did pay for Beckles.
Didn't we? Okay.
But I also don't know if that wasn't maybe covered under his insurance that he had through the city, so I couldn't tell you.
But you had mentioned, somebody mentioned Jerry Burr, and we did some helping there,
Mhm.
you know, this was a different time, you know, so.
We should, like Jim said, review our personnel policy, because I feel like there's something in there, but I don't remember. Because we redid that one time a few years ago, so something to look over.
Yeah, it could be a whole different market someday or time down the road. So for now, we're all good with it.
Robert, is that correct? It's 56 cents a mile still?
Pardon?
56 cents a mile for mileage?
Boy, I have no idea.
yeah.
That's pretty close.
Sounds right. I think I just got reimbursed.
50.
It's within a half a penny. I know, I put one.
That's what it used to be. I don't know if it still is, I think, but
It is, it's just right.
been a long time since I got paid for it.
56 or 56 and a half.
Or I guess not, I get.
I think I just submitted something and it was
Yeah.
56.
All right, then we're down to work comp audit from Berkeley
We have that?
Risk.
Yeah.
In your- in your policy.
Megan Dow.
Yeah, work comp audit Berkeley risk.
I don't have it in there, so you'll have to bear with me. Unless I can get it.
It's up there too for us. I had issues too. Issues.
What is off-sale liquor store for 472?
Couldn't tell you. I don't understand any of the Berkeley risk stuff. She asks for all the information for the employees, the fire department, you guys, Jake and I, we give her everything and this is what she sends back.
This is a work comp audit and there's nobody at the off-sale liquor store that works for the city of Good Thunder, right?
Correct.
Sewage, that would be,
Maybe it has to do with the fire department and the gambling. I don't know, just speculating.
Oh, that,
they would fall under the fire departments then, wouldn't
Maybe under the fire department, no, that'd be,
they? Yeah.
It's hard to say, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Well, anyway, that don't need to be on there, so.
Well, we don't know that for a fact.
But I mean,
That's what gets us in trouble.
yeah,
Find out if it needs to be on there for sure. And then, if not, take it off.
why wouldn't
Who sent that? I mean, is this through Chad?
so this is through,
the League of Minnesota Cities?
yep,
Yeah,
Group self-insured workers' compensation plan.
sorry, I'll get this.
But we buy this through Chad, right?
Yep. yeah.
So a simple phone call to him would probably clear this up. Can you do that and email everybody the end result?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Maybe just explain the whole thing a
Yeah.
little better.
Please explain.
Because I don't understand, is that our premium? Is
So,
that our actual dollar premium or those numbers mean something else besides dollars?
Well, usually when they do an audit, they did an audit of the payroll, right? That's what my work comp audit comes. They do an audit of your payroll and they ask me if Riley's a truck driver or what he does. So
I don't know.
that's how ours
I
works.
suppose to determine the risk.
My daughter gets a paycheck and she gets everything taken out of it. So she's an employee. They ask her what it is, she goes under clerical. So,
She's less risk.
pardon?
She's probably less risk,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's.
And we have clerical up there too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
On the other sheet with there, we had a bill for 10,339 as our premium. It was paid August 25th. Of 10,339. There's, it shows a $14 balance. I don't understand why we have a $14 balance.
so she,
Because we paid exactly what was billed.
yeah, unless there was more for her doing that, I'm not sure.
And it said municipal employees, 0, right? Now, when was volunteers wouldn't fall under work comp, right? Or would they?
Oh, yeah.
So would that be municipal employees?
can you find out what that means too?
I'll get a hold of and just get him to.
Yeah, because that, a lot of
explain
that's
that
just
whole sheet.
Yeah,
And the next
reading to something
question
that's in
is,
my,
I always thought that we had volunteer insurance. So let's say that Sarah sees something. Let's carry this even more. There's a fire. There's 3 firemen in town. Sarah grabs a hose and hooks it to a hydrant and pinches her finger. I thought we had insurance that covered her during that operation. I just want to make sure that that's there.
I think Chad talked about there's a volunteer clause in our big policy.
That's how I remember it.
But there'd be insurance on it, but it wouldn't be under workman's comp though, would it?
Should be,
You think it would fall under workman's comp?
it should. Isn't that all workman's comp? Anyone considered an employee, and even though firefighters are volunteer, they're an employee.
Yeah,
yeah, because
But
they
they have all
compensated.
those people's information.
well,
You've got all the firefighters' information.
I just, if you can talk to a human, you know.
we can analyze it forever, just
Yeah, let's just find out.
find out. And that sewage plant employee, that should be water and sewer, because what happens if it doesn't say water and
Doesn't come-
individual gets hurt over here in the water,
Yeah.
right?
That too.
That's what's a little confusing about
We want to make sure Brian's covered.
We want
it. Right.
all entities,
Right, if anybody gets hurt on any city property, you're covered, but
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
true.
about work comp, but
Yeah.
you're into a lawsuit if anything.
Yeah,
well, like, yeah, the employee mowing the park, would he be covered under workman's comp under there?
Yeah.
Yep. He would go under municipal employee, right?
You would think, yeah.
But there was 0 amount there.
Right.
So,
I don't know, we gotta find that out. Let's find that out.
all right. Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal. Jake, we added some a month ago or so. As it stands, we pay for the employee, right?
He just asked what the coverage would be for the one, and he was gonna pay that.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I think he's paying for his child, because it's
Yeah.
single coverage, and, because he'd asked what the premium was gonna be.
So we're paying for his, he's just an addition. Child is an addition, right?
Yes, so. I think well, I guess you guys have to decide. Is he going to reimburse the city for that amount? Or
Yeah,
does the city just pay
Deduct it.
and then he pays them?
no, you would want to get a check from him for that amount,
I
right?
think so. I
So
don't,
city,
it wouldn't be deductible. would it?
No, he wouldn't take it off the check.
no, that's not what I'm saying. So do you want the city to pay the full amount? And then he will just issue a check to the city for that difference for his child, right?
That's-
So not subtract the child out of it and then he pays Blue Cross Blue Shield.
No,
Okay.
since that policy is under the city of Good Thunder, I would keep it that way.
Okay,
We pay the bill, he reimburses us for X amount
Okay.
per month.
Otherwise you could make it complicated.
For sure, to make sure you're doing that right, because they've changed those rules regularly.
Yeah, I know, because there was a time where we couldn't pay their bill.
Don't do things right.
I know. Might as well check.
Every month.
So I mean, we don't need a motion on this. This is just an aware deal and.
yep, and I
Or
just
do
wanted,
we want a motion on it that we pay the premium, Jake reimburses the city for the amount of the,
I'll make that a motion.
someone second,
Second,
all in favor? I
I-
oppose, motion carried.
Make sure that's kosher, please.
It's
Make
in the
sure
minutes.
that's what we're supposed to do.
Okay, miscellaneous business. I didn't see if Jay or Brett, you guys did have anything under community. I didn't see, I couldn't see Brett. He's usually behind Jim there, so.
Speak up.
All right, community business, community pantry, winter location.
Yeah, what are we gonna do?
Last year sat outside and lots of stuff froze. People kept using it throughout the winter though.
I mean, it's just something that's popped up that Ashley's just been organizing and keeping
you could probably
rotating.
just,
Well, could we have it posted only during business hours that they could come in that garage door over there?
oh, there's so much other stuff in there though.
Was there?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
And it still would freeze, I think,
Yeah,
out
it's
there.
freezing there.
Doesn't freeze in there.
Really?
Freeze.
if you open the door, there's not a lot out there. There's some books on the table and some chairs. There's nothing sensitive out there, really.
Oh, that got taken
No,
care
but I
of.
mean, as far as getting hurt, I mean, if there's kids running around in there, that'd
Oh,
be the only thing. I mean,
I
just,
suppose.
and I haven't been in there for a long time. Maybe it's,
I would
Anything left?
suggest that we either put it in here or get rid of it for the winter.
It is used all the time.
I mean, I'm trying to think, if it's glass containers, something that's gonna freeze. Maybe we could put it in here and they get it during the day, but people like to come, I mean, I'm just speaking for some people. I think they like to come after hours. Maybe when, I don't know. Yeah.
I understand that, but
especially the kiddos after school. I don't know. Cause it's.
either comes in here or gets eliminated, one or the other.
it seems that way. I don't know how else are you gonna handle it. Where are we going? We don't have anywhere else.
Do you have any
You want
ideas?
that, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of people supposedly coming in here. I mean,
People coming in here don't bother me. They do for the library all the time. I don't know what you guys. It's utilized by the community. I don't wanna take something away that the community needed just because we have stone.
Yeah,
That's kind of silly.
Yeah,
A lot of people, it's supported by community members, helping other community members. I think it's a very good thing for the community. how do we make sure it stays? So if it comes in here, that's fine, I can figure out a place for
I
it.
mean, and then we just have to let the community know that due to the weather, it's not gonna be available all the time. That's the only stinky thing about it.
Only be or open during business hours. I mean,
Yeah. That's better than nothing. That's better than getting rid of it in my eyes.
And a lot of kids are using it after school for snacks. So
Yeah.
we don't know.
But I mean, if they come in here and they decide to stay for an hour and a half, I mean, is that
They won't.
okay?
I don't think.
Okay,
Well, maybe deal with that if it becomes a
they'll
problem.
have their bikes in here and
I don't think we allow that, but
I'm just throwing stuff out there.
I think you're being a little.
well,
I
if
think that's-
something downtown ever gets up and going, and I ain't even gonna speculate no more. We have that double entry door, couldn't possibly sit in there for the winter months. It
Yeah.
won't freeze. It'll be very warm. And, it's accessible for whenever you decide, it could probably be accessible for what, 12, 14, 15 hours a day,
that'd be better than.
but I'm not.
It's gotta be managed though, too. I mean, people drop stuff off with her and she puts it in there and rotates it and.
So I mean,
And
will that be ready by the
Time
first
being,
of
you wanna put it in
January?
here?
Pardon?
For the time being, you want to put it in here?
I agree with Ashley. We don't want to take anything away from the community. I mean,
I think it's a good thing. I agree.
Motion, we bring it in.
pardon, Tom?
I make a motion, we bring it in.
Okay, Tom made a motion, someone second?
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried.
Not ready. She sucking it.
All right, we're down to nothing. Anybody else with,
Toys for Tots drop-off
Yeah,
location. That's
just
on there.
FYI, Toys for Tots drop-off location again.
Number 2 under miscellaneous.
yeah, we did miss something.
So,
This will be it.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
And that's,
usually bigger than it is, but with COVID last year, it was just the drop-off up here. I don't know if there's gonna be more this year or not.
I better go shopping.
Because the one time with the vendor fair and Santa.
It
all
used
that,
Oh,
to be
yeah.
for several
a big
years.
thing, but I don't,
The vendor fair was fantastic.
so anybody that wants to drop off Toys for Tot, then how do they get distributed? Do they go to Mankato or what?
so we collect here, and then I have 2 contacts that come out here. And they'll either pick it up with the truck and trailer that come get them, otherwise they go to the armory and I take them into the armory in Mankato, and then they do the whole disbursement out there.
So we give here locally here, but nothing gets distributed back here.
I don't know that. I don't know who signs up for the,
Yeah, we used to do it at the more scenario, so all the names are in there and it says boy 10, girl 6, and you just grab that and you fill it, or you don't know where they're from. And there's hundreds of people, so they could be from here, they could be from Mankato, but it's the greater Mankato area.
But I mean, the people from here could go down there.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, they contact the Toys for Tots organization. They can get put on the list and.
And that'll run until what, around the 10th, 15th of December?
Yep,
Well, I guess it don't take no harm being there, right?
Oh, no.
So, all right, now anybody else?
Is this just for our information?
yes.
Okay,
So last month, Tom, you asked for kind of, this is the quick audit of the list. This is who's active, who's turned off. This is just what Banyan has. We'll do something a little bit more in depth because I don't think it has all of the addresses in there, like, down on Hubble, that one on the bottom. I don't think that's on the list, but it's a house in town that doesn't have a meter, but is counted as a house in town, I'm assuming still. So I would like to get you something better, but that's to look at, because this is meters right here, so it's a big book. That's just the short version of it, so. But yes, mostly for your information, Ron.
Well, I think that if we're done with all the rest of the stuff, we do need to talk a little bit about, in my opinion, kind of what Greg was inferring here before. I've been thinking about this, and really We are seeing month after month after month problems with bookkeeping, and we need to figure out a way that we can bring Ashley up to a level that's acceptable for the city in order to have a professional, able to put together a professional letter. I mean, like the newsletter that went out with the water bill. I mean, I keep saying, I don't do this for a living, but it took me 2 minutes to find 5 errors. You know, misspelled words and whatnot. The mentor thing, I think, is a great idea. That's exactly what I was thinking, that we need to find some way of having someone come in here a couple days a week and just be here and view different scenarios, you know, stories. And I want to say this too, it's really our fault. We hired Ashley at the time we did, looking for someone that we thought could just pick up the reins and go. And we didn't investigate maybe enough at that time. But we hired her. And so it's really up to us to get her up to speed, I think. And it's obvious we're struggling. We're struggling month after month. No one of us has the time to look like Greg is suggesting here.
No.
I mean, you'd have to send everything out. Everything that's done in Vanny, everything would have to come out to us and we would have to go through it all. We don't have that. I don't have that kind of time to do that, you know? It's not my job. So in order to do that, I don't know. I don't know who to get. I don't know what to do. I think that we need to get together as a council, have a separate meeting and discuss it so that we can come up with some real, true, honest suggestions here and then work on them. Because talking about it doesn't help. We can ask and ask. It doesn't help. We can talk about it at meetings. It doesn't help. We got to do something though in order to make this better. And I agree 100% with Greg. I'm glad he brought it up too. And a mentor is probably the way to do it. Maybe even some evening classes, you know, to get accounting skills better. We got to do something.
Well,
Something
one
has-
thing, I mean, we could maybe get together and see what all the bills are 1 month.
Well, and there's more to it than
But sit,
that.
no, I know that, I realize that, but sit down and actually see what's all coming in,
That's exactly right.
you know?
But, and I think that we need to do that too.
Yeah.
But we need to make it a personal help for Ashley. We have to do something. So we can't keep stumbling along like this anymore.
Or our payroll has been an ongoing problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's another issue.
That one there has guidelines. It's the 15th and the 20th.
Yeah.
That's how, that's
It's
got
just
to
the way
be
it is.
made.
That's what you got to do.
That's
Yeah.
what you have to do.
I mean, it's just like,
How does that get deviated from? One, you just told us at a personnel committee that the state is quarterly.
Are we gonna discuss my personnel review and my personal performance in an open meeting again? I'm gonna ask before we go forward.
No,
Because
we discussed it, that I asked you, you know, you had it in your minutes here or your logs that you paid the federal. And then I asked if the state, and you said that's paid quarterly. Isn't that the truth?
that is what I said.
Yeah, okay, so, but now we're finding out they're monthly though, right?
right, and that's my point. That's
Yeah.
my point, is that we need to get on some way to get straight here.
I thought he said the last time we met, it needed to be quarterly, because that's
He
when,
said tonight too, that the reports are due quarterly,
But
but
the
the tax.
holdings are
but
monthly.
when he talked to us, he told me that, and that's when I set a reminder every quarter to Ashley. So I was under the same impression.
But that's the reports.
And that's,
Yeah.
and that's my point.
Yeah, but I'm just
Get
saying,
somebody in here.
he's kind of, tossing her under the bus, but I remember him saying quarterly.
And that's the only one
So-
issue. That's one issue.
No, I know, I'm just saying,
I mean, the-
saying that's a huge issue, so that's just what I'm saying.
when I look at that cash, at that reconciliar, that cash balance summary, I mean, you can just add those numbers up in your head and come up, you know that they're off. I mean, you don't have to sit down with a calculator. You can just zoom, zoom, zoom. You can see that. It's not that difficult. Those are the kinds of things we need to have somebody bring Ashley up to a level. And I think we need to talk about that at a separate council meeting. Maybe it needs to be closed. I don't know that. I'm just saying though that in order to identify what we're looking for, we'll probably have to close it.
Well, we were supposed to have a workshop with the attorney the last week, October. Nobody could make that work. So is that our goal, to meet with the attorney with a workshop? And he would tell us whether that needed to be closed, so we can discuss all this, so we can get on the right track. Is that what you
If
mean?
you're gonna discuss personnel, and you're gonna, if that meeting is gonna be closed, the employee has the right to open it. There's certain guidelines that will be closed.
And that's why we'd have the attorney here to have guidelines or guidance
I mean,
how to conduct that.
you just said the guidelines.
Yeah,
I mean, that is the guideline.
yeah.
That is,
If you're asking if we could close it, and
yeah,
that doesn't follow into those guidelines.
Right.
We have a perfect resource in this town available, and she's willing to help. And you know who I'm talking about.
Mhm.
She was our clerk for 30 years. She's willing to help Ashley.
well,
Has that ever been brought forward before?
No,
yeah,
No?
no, last I heard it was not gonna happen.
that was when she quit. Part of her thing was she wasn't gonna be the contract worker. We've asked her on a personal level if she'd be available to help, and she said she would help.
Okay,
Oh, well, that should have been shared a long time ago.
We could probably hire her as a consultant. She'd probably do stuff for, I don't know, we should probably reach out and ask her, because she did perfect books for 30 years.
That's right. That's where we need to get again. You
so
know,
we need, I still think we need to get together though and discuss what we want to accomplish, instead of just having her just come in here. You know, there's more to it. I mean, it's, I don't want to go into it. We should get together as a council and talk about it.
I think she would come in and it would be just it would start out being a little bit more time, and then as time went on, the maintenance, it would be less,
It should be.
you know? And I personally-
Cheat sheets, but I don't know what happened to them, because they listed everything that she did every month.
Yeah,
She had 12 sheets. They were all color coded. They were given to the previous clerk, and they're gone.
and
a lot of stuff left.
she would know more about what we would want to have accomplished because she's done it. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I've forgotten things that used to get done. I mean, really. So in reality, it would just be her coming in and, you know,
But even, I'm not, I don't even know if, well, maybe. I don't even want to really talk about it. I don't think it's right to talk about it. We should have a separate meeting, full council, and decide if it should be open or closed at that time.
With the attorney?
With the attorney or not.
Well, I think my thoughts are on that, to make sure it's done correctly. His guidance. That's just all I wanted to add.
We can do it. I mean, that brings me, you know, an example is usually when you try to set a meeting, the person who's the most important person there, you get all their dates first.
Yep.
You say, Chris, I need 6 dates out over the next 30 to 60 days. And then you go to everybody else and use those dates. You don't ask me my dates and your dates and then go to Chris, you know.
Chris is open.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one that matters,
Right.
whether I'm there or not, it's really not that important.
Right.
He's the one that's important, you know, so. I mean, little things like that, we need to develop that prowess and that ability in this office. And so we can do that a number of ways. That's why I want to meet as a council and just talk about that. Just, you know, like I said, night school.
I mean, isn't that the process that happened? Is he gave you a couple of dates? And you asked us if we could make it and we couldn't?
Essentially, yeah.
I mean, I just got a text message and said I couldn't make it, so.
That's all I'm saying. We have to do something.
Well, we were told it's something.
Yeah.
Something like-
And then we were told to do something.
Yep.
Anywho, that's all I got.
All right. So
So
get a half a dozen dates from that.
from him,
Yes.
over the next 30, 60 days, whatever. Then
And call us.
Yeah.
And do we talk about, we got one more meeting this year. In 2022, do we start having 2 meetings a month?
We can discuss that. Then, I suppose that has to be discussed on the first meeting of the year.
Because we're changing,
That would be a bylaws change.
we're
That'd be a code
changing.
Change.
Yeah.
So that would be one of those deals that have to be publicized and all that.
Mhm.
Then we're gonna do 2 meetings, so you just can't decide to do it. I mean,
Yeah,
there again, there's a procedure for that too.
and then under miscellaneous, did you talk to Dan Anderson at all? Did you get,
I've been playing phone tag with him. I left him in what voice message Tuesday or Wednesday, and
gonna
I
say
have
it's
not
in
heard
the
back from
box.
him.
really?
Maybe just email them. Just say, you know,
So the main question was, is it available for $1?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then was the question we needed to ask him. Then from that point, have
And we start
community,
moving into some community networking.
okay. So hopefully, you know, I mean, it'll be December, 12th or so when we meet next time. I mean, half that, that'll be over. So it'll be the 13th, so I hit it pretty close. So, you know.
Yeah.
Winter will be here and gone before we know what to do.
Oh, I know, you're right.
And an economic development. He touched on it for us one time and Chris did. We haven't taken it any farther. Now, if Cheryl would, is this an opportunity to teach and learn? And Cheryl's mentored into this, would she be the one and both of them get this up and going?
Heck of an idea.
You know,
I think it's something to think about.
is that how we approach this?
Yeah.
Well, they gave us the guidelines, what we needed to do. We needed to determine what we wanted the EDA to do.
But it's so complex to get
Right.
set up.
Yeah.
It's 1,000 times over me, how it would be set up.
Burkhart and Kennedy, they know exactly how to set it up. We
Yep.
had a 2-hour meeting. They told us what to do.
But we also got to have somebody from the town to represent us that gets it all. How would I say, to portray it back to us? You know, if they get together, tell us how to set it up, it goes to the clerk. The clerk's got to be able to explain it to us, right? How the functions and all that would work? Is that how it would work? Or do we meet with them all?
Now, the council can be the EDA, or you can have.
Well, I know that, but how do we get from Chris
How do you start?
Burkhart? Who's going to be the liaison between those two? Do they meet with us as a council all the time? Or do they take it to the city clerk? She brings it back to us. And that's probably another good reason why we could start 2 meetings a month, because if we want to set up one of these, it's going to take time. It'd probably take a lot of time,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think he's left us with, we need to figure out the purpose of our EDA. That's the very first thing he said we had to figure out was our purpose. What did we want to have an EDA for? What did we want to accomplish?
Well, we'd love to be able to help out some individuals with businesses.
Right?
And that money that made $40,000, would that be much better spent building something or partial building to get some
Have a higher rate of return because you could set it at 5 or 6% just because it's more of a risk.
Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, would you put it out there so you can expand our business base in Good Thunder? I think,
First, we have to find somebody that will dig and push and call until they get the answers. Can you do that?
Yeah.
How much of that can you do? How much can you put into something like, that's what we need, is somebody that's going to, and your idea of Cheryl doing that, if she's agreeable and this is what we decide to do, if we have this meeting and all this kind of stuff. That, she's kind of done that before too, and she may know some people yet too. That maybe would help in that endeavor, just to be sure we know where we're going and,
Yeah.
she's got to, she's known Chris Kennedy forever and all that, you know what I mean? You can call him up and ask any question and, that way there we can get started.
Yeah.
Because that's what's holding us up. We don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
And if we knew what to do next, they lay out how you do it, but it's not, what do we do next? I mean, how do we know?
How do you know if we're doing it right?
Right, I mean, yeah, we have to.
And that is the process between the auditor and the attorney, but they told us in that long conversation that we decided the purpose.
Yeah.
How much we wanted to fund it and what the members consist of, and then we just move forward. There's all kinds of rules and laws and what you need to do, but we need to decide first.
And maybe we should do that the same night we get together and talk about.
Well, we talked about using them funds, to fund it. Can we take public? Well, yeah,
You
if
can't,
we do it an EDA, we can do that. But
But yeah, we just don't know how much.
but it's not a constant fund, because we asked that question too. If we say we put $250,000 in there and we borrow it all out for one project, there's no more money left. The money comes back in as the payments from that project.
Yeah.
So you don't really necessarily want to put all your eggs in one basket that way.
no, and that amount of money nowadays is just
Right.
dust. We got $790,000 here. It made us $40. We could utilize a third of that.
Yep. Just have to remember, we've utilized $30,000 already, and it's not coming back.
That was one other thing on my miscellaneous thing.
You gotta be careful too.
Right. 'Cause the big thing with the EDA is we could borrow it all out, take a good fund, and we get none of it back.
But you know what? If you're the head of the EDA, you would be, I suppose the bank would be number one on the property or the building or the equipment. But we know from past experiences now, we would be on board a lot quicker, that we would probably, chances are, be number two.
Well, we do all the background checks and all of the studies, things you need to do, but we just kind of took it for granted that Blue Earth County did the due diligence.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. We didn't know, we didn't know.
And I don't want that to burn us to never do anything to help out somebody, or you know what I mean? But it's just gonna make us be that much.
You take $22,500, which is half of that $45,000 loan, and you spread that over Blue Earth County, that's zip.
Yeah, I know.
That is a zip. But you take 22,500 and you said we have 220 paying water meters? It's $100 per.
Yep, it makes a bigger difference.
That's how all that volume, it probably won't even add up to be $1.
Right.
But in Good Thunder, it's gonna be $100 for Brett. It's gonna be $100 for
All of us.
everybody here. 1, 2, 3, 4. $800 right here.
Yeah.
$800 right here.
Divided up equally, but yeah, that's the way to look at it.
That's a way to describe what's gonna happen.
I did that in my notes too, I just kind of forgot about it, like, what do we do with that whole process? That's 13 months behind. The county doesn't care, and they don't normally do anything until it business folds. They don't even do anything, so, but what do we do?
A new individual asked me what us as a city are doing to recoup that. Well,
What can we do?
Yeah,
there's nothing we can do, right?
we're doing it.
We are making the
Pretty much-
payments.
We were pretty much told that by the attorney that
We have to keep doing.
how
what
much
we're
money you
doing.
want to spend.
Yeah. So
Do he, right? Didn't he?
They could write a simple letter, which they've already done, and nothing happened from
Right.
that.
Or we
could
pursue
spend-
it,
Yeah,
he's putting in time.
right. We'd be more money ahead just to walk away.
That's, it's in the long run, probably.
but then, just say it someday it quits the pop and the candy bars. And then it just goes to I don't know what kind of store you call it.
Thrift store.
Thrift store, yeah, there you go. Well, that thrift store was able to be there because of the residents, $22,500, right?
Right.
Yeah, essentially.
Counties. So I mean,
I don't know though, because I think they paid for that building. You know what I mean? So I think they owned the building though before they even got that loan.
I think you're right.
Well, and the thing is that Region 9 and Smith and all those guys, they've got mortgages.
they're way ahead of us.
They're way in place. They didn't think they did, but there's all kinds of mortgages, liens against the building. The only thing I don't know it was liened is the equipment that Blue Earth County and us bought. I don't know if there's any liens on that equipment.
Well, there, I guess then that would be a good area to start. Call Region 9 and that and say, hey, we've been making these payments for 13 months. What is the next step?
Mhm.
This is taxpayers' money is going to pay off a debt that we're involved in. Is that how we approach it?
We haven't been making.
We haven't made any payments.
We,
I thought we were making them.
We
We
only
were,
make-
and they said, quit doing that, so they haven't made any payments, we haven't made any payments.
we don't make a payment unless they make a payment. Because that way
Oh.
it's cleaner when whatever happens, it's cleaner that it's split in half and not the city paid $17,000 extra and then they gotta figure that out. So we don't make a payment unless they make a payment to us.
I do, yeah, I remember that now, because one time when we asked somebody, I asked the question, will it hurt our ratings if we don't make
Yeah.
that payment? And who was it that I asked? It didn't seem like it would really matter, but to me, that's
Kennedy.
business.
Yeah.
You guaranteed a loan and now you're not paying it either.
Right.
It just
Doesn't seem right.
doesn't seem right. No, we guaranteed that loan as a city.
Yeah.
And now we're not making it, so are we as guilty?
Advice that we were gotten given.
Yeah, I think that's what Kennedy told us to
I
do.
don't remember if it was Kennedy or if it was when we met with Bob Meyer, maybe. You know, we went in and we met with him,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
So our choices are, you have the attorney send another letter and try to do some kind of collection, or you send a letter that we are paying it off and we're not pursuing it anymore. We're not gonna go to court and spend 20 grand trying to get 20 grand.
I mean, when was the last time we talked to the county?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Been quite a while, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
because I think we met,
yeah, that was it wasn't even last summer,
no, I
the
think. it
summer
was-
before,
Yeah, so.
when we met with that Bob
Maybe
Meyer.
getting a hold of whoever's in charge down there again,
Yeah, that'd be
Just
that Bob
run a
Meyer.
letter by him and
Or give him a
see if you get an
call.
answer.
Ask him again. Yeah.
Give him a
Yeah.
call.
I
And
can't
it
agree
just-
with you, Ron, that we shouldn't just let it die. We should ask. We should be proactive and ask. the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
What should we be doing, Bob? You know,
Yeah,
should we be paying on this? Do you think we should?
Like I say, to them, it don't mean, it really doesn't mean a whole lot.
No, no.
It's happened to them before.
Yeah. It happened to us
I can
before.
name off towns where it's happened. I mean, it's still,
And if you call him, then you follow it up with an email.
Mhm.
And then make sure that he follows up in response with an
Yeah.
email. So you got it in writing.
Yeah,
Well, one way or another, we either have to pursue it a little bit or something.
Right.
yeah, like I say, get a hold of the county and let's see what's, see what they put it on the back shelf and just went. That's the way it
I mean,
is.
if that's the way it is, that's okay. I mean, as far as our relationship with the county is what I mean.
yeah, as long as, exactly.
As long as that's okay. I'm not saying it's okay here. I just
Right,
mean it's
right.
okay there. You know?
We're trying to work together. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nope.
right.
I think you just said they don't do anything till the business closed. They never had it where business was still open and they've done something with the collection.
Well, we're in a good spot.
All righty. Anybody else with miscellaneous?
yeah, we need to discuss this, our rentals. Judd was here last month. We sent out a letter about someone coming into compliance. They didn't, then there was questions about where our ordinance is gonna stand, and I just don't want when the people that are paying for their rental licenses are paying and people who aren't, I don't want them to think we're favoring other people, so I think that the council needs to look at that ordinance and figure out what you're gonna do.
Didn't he have some clarification that he was gonna,
What he said is we need to have a meeting, to decide what we want the ordinance to say and determine, because he said we need to revisit it and refine what it says.
That's right. He did say that.
And he has some state guidance because there's some exceptions, but they're not really exceptions. Basically, it's a rental all the time. Even when family members are living in a house, it's a rental period.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And he wasn't talking about the one everyone thinks we're talking about. He's talking about a different one that a family owns and a family lives in.
Yeah.
So he told the council to meet and figure out that ordinance and what kind of teeth we want it to have in it.
no?
So the same thing. Let's get acting on that.
Yeah.
So we know where we can go with.
We also maybe should look at, we set our 2%. I don't know if we want to have a budget meeting so we can figure out where we want to be at, 1%, 2%. You guys just said,
We do that in December, right?
And we have to do that.
we're having our truth and taxation meeting in December where we set it.
Yeah.
But do you want to meet before then? And
That's what we always do is we certify it right?
Did we just?
We have the truth and taxation meeting and then we certify it after that
Yes.
in the December meeting.
Yes.
Which are the same day. That's why.
Same night.
Yeah.
We open one, we close it. Do it, then we do it, close it, then we do it.
It's really just us looking at the budget and saying, okay, that's enough to cover stuff, or that's not enough here and there.
Do you remember you guys used to do line items so you could get a more accurate count instead of just going 2% everywhere?
Yeah.
Because in the long run, then it's, okay, we're 2% over our budget and then trying to just, everything is a line item for me. So if we're just like 2% everywhere, when I go to put that in the system, it's not as just easy as increase the whole budget 2%. So I just didn't know if you guys want to do line items or you just want to.
Guess what? If you get that mentor that you mentioned, that will be back per line item.
It was last year because I had her up here.
That's how she done it for all them years. Everything was a line item,
No.
right?
Yeah, I think we talked about putting it 2% every line, with the exception of payroll, because you can't just say 2%. You know what I mean? I don't remember what the raise was or anything anymore now.
It was
That's
5%.
different.
Mhm.
And so the PRA is different than 2%.
Yeah.
So you gotta be able to go into that program and look at all those lines and figure, oh, that doesn't apply, but you know, future improvements and all this other stuff does apply, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Office supplies, 2%, 2%.
Yeah, because our taxes and our para and our LG, all that stuff is set. That is what it is. So that's obviously not increasing 2%, but I just didn't know if you guys wanted to have a workshop to go through line items or.
No,
That'd be next year in August,
to be
right?
perfectly honest with you, it doesn't really make any difference because the line items are so skewed now that somebody should go through every one of them line by line and make sure that the general government, this part of government has got a, if you look in there, it's got, I believe it's a $10,000 insurance charge against it. Why? You know, that doesn't make any sense.
So that question you asked Greg, when you were up there, do you think that Cheryl could come and figure that out?
I think so. I don't know that, but I think so.
So do we
I
want
think she
to,
can see that though. I think she'll be able to see that by looking at that, just like I did. You just look at it and go, oh.
just the big figures and you're gonna,
So long, she probably just knows that. Why is that off? Where's it from?
Well, didn't he say we weren't really comparing apples to apples anyways because of,
so
Yeah, and it may not be, and that's because of other problems, ledger problems, reconciliation, bank statement problem,
okay.
okay? And that might be it.
so would we get her on board the 1st of January?
So that's not the issue.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking here like she's like, you know, I mean, we don't know that she'll do it, you know?
But I mean, would that what our goal be, to get her on board by January to help? Or December?
I would say soon.
End of year, she's.
I would say soon.
Yeah.
Like coming up in 2 weeks.
And the next thing would be the wage.
In my opinion,
Whatever.
it's council's fault that this happened. We've got to fix it. So if it's an extra $20,000 or whatever it is, we got to fix it. We can't keep stumbling on like this. So you said it. You said it.
WIT.
Kind of pretty much whatever she wants. Whatever she thinks she needs.
I think she's gonna be very reasonable because she wants to help.
The other thing is I think we need to post that position too.
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah.
And she would probably tell us that too, you know, but yeah.
So the next question arises, if we have,
That's what I was
I
wondering
don't
too.
think so, because if we're calling SCSC for help, we're not posting out there that we're looking.
No, that's a contractor that we are hooked up with and we're paying, you know, a contractor to do that. This is different. We're actually hiring someone else to be in here. And we're like.
it would be like a part-time employee.
Yeah.
The lawn mowing, we're supposed to put it as a part-time employee.
Yeah.
Right? Could you write the description as to tutor and mentor?
I think we need to have.
Skills.
We discussed this more, you're right. Yeah, tutor and mentor. Also, we need to have some qualifications. mean, it has to be someone who's very familiar with Banyan.
Yeah, has to have 15 to 20 years clerk experience. And all
They have to
things.
have
Yeah.
somebody
30 years.
that's used to professional correspondence. You know, both on the phone, electronically, letter writing, word crafting, all those things has to be, part of this person's background in order to make this successful. And then not only does this person need to be good at Banyan, it's just, you just gotta have a good accounting background. That's what Cheryl does.
And well, the city of Truman listed it. You have to have a BA, a college, this and this and
We
this.
were hiring a new clerk.
Yeah, so would we consult Kennedy how to list this opening? It isn't, I mean, would we? So we don't do it wrong?
Well, we want to meet with Kennedy anyway, see what openings he's got,
Yeah,
so we can sit down as early as possible.
Yeah.
If it's tomorrow night, fine. I mean,
Gotta post
let's
it.
get-
I'm home page.
It's gotta be posted,
As soon as we can get at it, let's get it with it. I mean, that's what we've been trying to do anyway.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm gonna-
We can ask them
I'm gonna
questions.
reach out and find out if she's still interested before we do all these things, with all our. eggs in
Well, we're
a
still
basket.
gonna meet with Kennedy,
I get that, but
so I mean, it's not gonna
it's
happen
gonna
this
get
week.
out tomorrow that we discussed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How the small town is,
Yep,
Well, it can't happen this week probably, because by the time you
No,
get
no, but I'm just
him
saying.
saying yes and us all saying yes,
yep.
it's not gonna happen that quick.
No, I guess reach out, see if the individual's still interested. Then we need to have our meeting with Kennedy, see how to list it, or if he can hire previous or however you want to describe it. So. Anything else under miscellaneous? Anybody? If not, there's no, oh, there's a adjourn over there. I'll make a motion to
We'll
adjourn.
move.
Someone a second? All in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody?